Recently, Texas passed a near total ban on abortions. When this was brought before the Supreme Court, they refused to block the law. This law allows clinics to be sued for carrying out abortions for pregnancies longer than that have gone on longer than 6 weeks. It also effectively puts a bounty out for tips on women who may be getting an abortion outside of that time frame. Is this law fair? Is it destructive? And is this a massive step forward to overturning Roe v. Wade? So yeah, Texas abortion law. You guys all know what it's about. And we haven't been able to talk about it previously. All my plans have kind of gone up in smoke there. So I finally want to tackle. Let's get your opinions on this thing. So yeah, we'll start with Mad Latin for introduction.
Yeah, so I mean, I think my stance on this is going to be like pretty clear cut. Like, this is a law that is effed in all the different ways. If you're on the left, this is a direct attack on abortion. If you're on the right, it's a direct attack on freedom. Like, you're literally paying citizens to like snitch on each other, and then so it's like all sorts of bad. In terms of how it impacts the Black community, I mean, it's very obviously significant. I should have done a little bit more research today. I just didn't have time to do the research that I needed to today. So I guess I'll be doing a little bit of that. But like, I just see like urban abortion clinics not being able to do what they need to do. I see folks who aren't necessarily going to be able to find another state to get the services performed. Like, this is just bad juju all around.
Okay, GSU.
Yeah, I think this is like probably the best law this century. No, I'm joking. I'm playing. Everybody that knows me knows that I am pretty anti-abortion. I used to be in favor of the state mandating there not be abortions. I've been walked off that just a little bit. I still think abortions are abhorrent, but I also think this law is abhorrent. I think deputizing the American public to run around and try to sue abortion clinics based off like private matters is a bit ridiculous. I actually was arguing this on Tree of Logic's panel like 2 Sundays ago, and I couldn't believe people were trying to act like this law was like okay. It's not okay in any way. Even if you're a person that's more pro-life than me, I can't understand how you would support something this disastrous. But yeah, I'm fairly pro-life. I just don't think that maybe the government should be should be imbued with that power. But yeah, we'll talk more in open for sure. I gotta run to go grab something. I can still hear y'all though.
Sig.
In regards to the abortion thing, I mean, like, come on now. I mean, how many decades has it been since Roe v. Wade? It's pretty clear what's going on. We got state after state after state after state trying to ban this stuff. Actually, no, not trying, successfully banning these things. Texas being one of our largest states with one of our higher populations, it's just like a big shoot in the knee for how it's gonna work. Frankly, I'm pretty pessimistic about this whole thing. It's definitely a massive step forward towards overturning Roe v. Wade. I think that the court, I mean, a lot of them are wishy-washy about how to do it, but I'm pretty scared that they might just go ahead and say, fuck it, you know what? Screw it. Though I do think that a lot of them do want to preserve peace, right? They're very much in that conservative type where it's just like, we don't want to rock the boat too much and create too many crazy rights or anything like that. So who knows?
Jamal?
Yeah, this is one of the things where it's like, obviously this has an effect on every population in Texas, every person in Texas, but and how so, and it affects the Black community particularly. It's essentially going to mean that these areas are going to continue to be underschooled, meaning higher rates of all sorts of shit, crime and stuff, meaning less fathers in the home, meaning more babies being born in teenage. It's all a spiraling domino effect that leads from one thing to another. It's obviously going to negatively affect the Black community. And it's just an awful bill in the sense that it targets these businesses, these medical places who can now take financial damage for providing what should be right, something for a woman to choose what to do with her body.
Jacob.
I think, I mean, I'm pro-choice. Do I think the law is fair? Obviously, no. Besides my stance on abortion, it's interesting, Gambit. I do want to hear more from your side on why you think the part of the law being people telling on each other is like what irks you the most, I guess. Is it destructive? I think yes, also that. Because not only is it not fair, but you're telling people that they're gonna get a reward based on someone else's behavior. And that's usually, I mean, it's not the case for guns, not to bring that up into here, but it's a fascinating law in the fact that like Texas Republicans got it passed. Do I think it's a huge step forward overturning Roe v. Wade? I'm going to say it's a step. I don't think it's a huge step. The Supreme Court did not see this, the petition. So I don't think that they're going to touch it, honestly.
Okay. Let's go to Azee.
Never really had a big opinion on abortion rights because I don't have to have children. I am anti. Well, my position on abortion is generally if it's not if it's not going to save the life of the mother, I'm kind of against it. I do feel like a lot of people who, if a lot of mothers had the chance to abort their children, would not be here today if they were aborted. So, but this law is obviously it's teetering on. It's very excessive. It's apparently like they ban up to 6 weeks, which is when they first get any type of cardiac activity. So when they first hear like a heartbeat from the fetus, that's when they ban it. I haven't come to a conclusion. I'm hoping tonight that maybe somebody can persuade me, whether or not I should. What was that?
Yeah, no clue.
Okay, maybe somebody can persuade me on whether or not I should form a pro or con position.
Okay. Let's go to Top Dolphin.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting law. I personally don't like it. I think it's very weird to to enforce a law through the citizens rather than like having state enforcement. That's like crazy strange. Something I think is very interesting is like in terms of impact, black people actually don't get abortions at like that much of a higher rate than like other groups. It might be higher proportionally, but not by much. But I think still like obviously low income people and African American communities who can't get abortions are going to be more probably severely impacted by like maybe having the kid. So this could be negative in that way. The last thing I kind of want to say is I think that we've during the past like 5 or 6 years, we've seen a lot of testing of some of our like assumptions about our democratic institutions in this country. It shows that we need to stop relying on things like executive orders and Supreme Court precedent, and instead we need to which is very difficult. We need to pass legislation on things that we like believe strongly about, or in some case, like in this case, I would say probably amendment. Although I don't know if that's ever happening again in the history of the United States, in the future history of the United States. But yeah, that's kind of my position. But I'm looking forward to talking to everybody.
Chris Cosmo.
Yeah, I'm obviously pro-choice in the matter. this is a terrible thing that's happening. Is it a huge step in overturning Roe v. Wade? I don't think so. I think what it is like showing every other Republican state how they can get this done without having to overturn it. I mean, every like Florida's trying to mimic the same thing Texas just did. I'm pretty sure other states are going to follow behind. I think a lot of them are waiting on to see how the backlash from citizens like affects like Texas and like probably the next election, because this may like help galvanize like the Democratic like citizens in Texas to like show up to vote like in mass if like this really affects people as much as I really think it does. But other than that, yeah, this could be really bad, right? If this turns out to work in like the Republican like Texas lawmakers' favor, you can bet like other Republican states are going to do the same thing, the same precedent. The Supreme Court is not going to do much about it. Roe v. Wade can still be intact, and like all these states will still have this ban in place, and it'll this country be further divided by like other crazy things. It's insane that this happened, but like seeing the desperation of Republicans nowadays, it's not surprising.
Okay, open to the panel.
So this topic can be broken up into 3 different parts, right? The part that there was a great deal of concern on was the fact that there's a bounty, right? So that's like kind of the government institutions part related to the Supreme Court and how laws are passed, et cetera, et cetera. So we can talk about that. We can talk about the abortion angle and like what the future of abortion in this country is and the efficacy and that sort of thing. And then we can talk about the impact of the law on the population directly and like the type of behavior. So there's like a lot to unpack. The part that I think is why I immediately talked about the bounty first is that I think this law actually is the latest attempt at like sort of subverting how the country works. Like we're in this sort of phase in our democracy right now where we don't respect mos maiorum, like the institutions, the precedents that we previously had. We're trying to undermine these precedents so we can pass the laws and rules that we want because our factions are so not in agreement that finding some sort of compromise is near impossible, right? Or actually impossible, honestly. So I think the thing that's really scary about this law, past like I'm completely removing all the other aspects of it. Like I'm not talking about abortion specifically. I'm literally just talking about like the concept and the construct of this law is that so this angle of the scary is that it actually undermines how our democracy will work. We're literally kind of doing political brinksmanship back and forth until something kind of gives. So that's like where I'm kind of really concerned. Like this reminds me of like this is very similar to like the types of laws that were being passed in like the 1850s prior to the Civil War, right? Where like, you know, one side wanted something irrational and crazy to happen, so they would pass this law that forced it was like the Futures of the Slave Law, right? Where they were like, okay, we're going to force the North to return slaves to the South, right? Like this is like that same sort of law. And like laws like this only start getting passed if there's actually about to be like a severe fissure within our government. And we're also seeing a lot of that. So like that's one angle that we can look at. I guess I'll start with that.
I think you're like absolutely correct. I mean, they're like pushing, like they're finding ways to push right up against that line, like that's there, like without actually having to cross it, right? Like now that they're able to pass these, like they're going to try this with other things, right? They're going to see how close they can get to what they actually want without having to technically call it that in the eyes of the Supreme Court, right? So like making it to where the Supreme Court, I don't know if they technically couldn't block this law. I just think they wouldn't. And like with the way Roe v. Wade is set up, right? The precedent that is set, I still don't think like this like that Texas law is still like was beyond the pale, right? It's still like it should have been blocked, right? It's still based on that precedent. It should still be remain unconstitutional. I don't know, like the ways the Supreme Court we have now, it's whatever now. I thought like before we were thinking like since they blocked all these things Trump was trying to do with the election, like all his lawsuits and everything, since they blocked those things, everybody thought it was all right. Well, we're okay. They're at least going to follow the law. I don't know about that now. I don't.
Well, like the next step in political brinksmanship would be for the Supreme Court to then proceed, or any institution to basically say, to hell with the law, we're just going to do what we want, right? So like that's like the next step. Now you talked about this line that exists where they're trying to walk to like this sort of invisible line of like what mos maiorum is, right? But the thing is that line goes further and further out the more political brinksmanship you have. So like if you look back like 20 or 30 years ago, this sort of law would never have made it. Like there's no way this would be like the Supreme Court would have said, nah, this is ridiculous. No, but like the thing is, the American population has been conditioned to be okay with this level of political brinksmanship, and we're going to get further conditioned. Like it's good, just going to keep going. So like we're shocked right now. In 4 or 5 years, this sort of behavior is going to be commonplace, and then we'll discover the next step, which is, of course, the Supreme Court denying or just kind of like contriving a reason not to strike down a law that's clearly unconstitutional.
I think they gotta get around that by like not outright just saying it's bad.
Wait, I thought that
asking people to snitch.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this law can still be struck down. It isn't that they made. It isn't that they made the decision. Well, they did make the decision to uphold it, but I can't remember all of the different nuances. But
so
this
what's
law
going on?
absolutely can still be struck down by the Supreme Court. I think it can also be challenged by like the abortion providers in Texas. So we're not at a state where this thing is definitely going to be.
Block it. They just didn't block it. Yeah. So
right. So they took like the tentative step.
Do y'all hear that feedback, or is it just me?
Yeah, I heard some feedback.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay. But
they took that tentative step in trying to not strike it down, and they will. Of course, they're going to strike it down eventually. Eventually, they can't get around it. The point is that they're trying to expand what we're comfortable with by doing little things like this. So this is just like the latest in getting us to more extreme political, making a more extreme political spectacle of our legal system, basically. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, you would argue that the further we stretch it, though, the more extreme it can go on both sides. Now, why is it that the right is so capable of doing this, and the Democrats don't seem really capable of like sort of sneaking in their own bills or in local areas? The conservatives seem to be more focused or harnessed. Like they seem to harness their energy better.
I mean, the Republican Party just plays to win. So like they're the instigators. The thing is, though, the left is going to learn. Well, has been learning all sorts of lessons from this, right? Like this has been an ongoing process for like the last 20 years. Enough is enough. People are actually like infuriated on the left. So now it's going to be one of those like both sides are going to do it type things, probably. And so like my source here, what I'm referring to, there's a history book called Storm Before the Storm. It's written by my favorite history podcaster. And it talks about what caused the Roman Republic to turn into the Roman Empire. And this is like pre-Julius Caesar, right? There's like 80 years of history where different Roman factions played with the legal code to the point where the legal code could not maintain the Republic anymore, and it like kind of crashed and burned. And the fun part about where we're at is on that timeline, if we're similar to Rome in any way, which so far we've been, is that we're like, say, like a decade before the part where like there's actually outright like clashes. And that's kind of what I've been dreading and fearing. So that's what I'm looking at. So people should read Storm Before the Storm if you're curious what I'm talking about.
I was gonna say, when you're talking about the whole this whole thing about like abortion and all that stuff, like, oh goodness. Yeah, we're talking about a lot about political polarization and the fact that this has led to this point. I mean, I pretty much like disagree. I don't know if this is necessarily just simply political polarization. Conservatives have been working for decades to undermine Roe v. Wade. Like it's been going on for a very long time. This is just like they're finally starting to really bear fruit. Okay, they've finally been able to redistrict enough of their things, elect the people they need to elect, get the people they need to be in office to deconstruct a lot of these. Like, in a lot of southern states, abortion is essentially illegal. It's kind of like how it is in Texas right now. I think they closed down I don't think there's a single abortion clinic in Mississippi, I believe, or something.
No,
like Alabama, a lot of these other things. There's like one, but you can't really go there, right? I think they shut down. I know there was a state where there was one, but then it shut down, and then there's none.
There's a few,
even though it's still legal to get an abortion.
There's a few states
Like-
where there's like one, and
Yeah.
there's others like with Texas. They shut down so many that like since it's so large, you have to drive way far out. It's like
Right.
and it might as
So
well be
it's-
like there's none.
It's functionally illegal, right? Like functionally, they've been able to legalize these things over the past.
Well, functionally unavailable,
Like, this is-
right? Probably is better. But yeah.
Functionally, oh yeah, sure. Functionally inaccessible. Yes, it's functionally inaccessible to get an abortion in all these places, regardless if it's quote unquote legal or not. You know, and I think that that's just like, I mean, as long as they can do that, then it doesn't matter what Roe v. Wade says, right? And in that regard, you know, just like how you know, what was it? Slavery was illegal and all that stuff, you know, a long time ago. But they functionally they found a way around that. You know, the whole sharecropping system. They're like, hey, we got this. We'll make do. Right? You know, same shit.
I see what you're saying, and we're gonna get like lean hard into opinion. I cannot account for any of what I'm saying. Like this is just like my thought process, not like I'm just saying right now. You can definitely argue against this and suggest that I'm wrong here. But I think that abortion was one place where conservatives have been testing and trying. Like the whole point is power in this country. I don't necessarily think that most Republican politicians, I mean, some sure, like, but like I think a lot of the intent behind choosing abortion as something to fight for was for votes, right? Like, how many Republicans, Congress people, how many Republican politicians have had their have had abortions or convinced their girlfriends or extramarital partners to have abortions? Like this happened a lot. This would make the news like often, right? So like I'm not 100% convinced that it was about the efficacy, and I think it's more about like having an angle for holding on to power, like
You
this
know,
gun
single
rights.
issue voters.
I actually,
Well-
yeah, for me to get here, I think that these two things don't matter, right? I think that when I think these two things, like for example, if a politician, right, you're focusing a lot on the politicians, but I don't think they matter that much. It's about what the masses want, and if the masses, you know, that they're appealing to in these states, in these counties, in these districts, if they don't want abortion to be a thing or to be accessible, then the guys are going to make it happen to get power, right? But I feel like that's just like a symptom, right? You're going to get these people that are going to try to appeal to their base to do the stuff. Like when I
Wait.
don't know, we're kind of blaming the politicians here when they're just kind of following the flow of the crowd and saying like, hey,
Wait.
you don't like abortions? Well, you know, I don't like them either. Maybe I'm sure a lot of politicians don't. I'm sure a lot of politicians want them gone, but I'm sure there's just as many that are just like, I don't give a fuck.
This
do
seems
you guys
weird. Y'all don't think people can genuinely be pro-life?
No, I think
I
people
said,
can.
I
absolutely.
straight up, no, he was talking about politicians specifically, and
Yeah.
he was saying the politicians. He's saying that like I guess I don't think he said that. I think he said most of them probably were, and I think he made kind of imply that most of them were. But I would say that like I really don't know. I think it doesn't matter if they're genuine or not. I think that doesn't really matter.
Gotcha.
I think the people that
Okay.
the people that are appealing to are genuine, and they're gonna follow what they're following, and that's what matters most to me.
Like, I definitely think that's there's plenty of right-wing politicians who are anti-abortion for reasons that are I don't know what the right word is for this, because but like they actually believe that someone is being murdered each time an abortion occurs, right? Like there's
Well,
like there are definitely people who
that's
believe that,
true,
think that,
right?
live that, right? The thing is,
I don't know that.
like, and the tricky
Although-
part, and I guess
well,
we're going to
Gambit,
kind of shift
hold on.
towards what abortion is.
We've already, you're missing the the big part here. Gambit.
Gambit said it was true.
Yeah.
But Gambit, hold on. Murder is only when it's illegal. It's
Wait,
killing,
hold on.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the definition
Not murder.
here, and this is where like the disparity is what is life? And this is something that is
Yeah.
very subjective that we don't actually have an answer for.
That is
And that's why
very
both
not
sides-
true. That's
But
not
no,
the
that's what it
discussion.
is.
He
It really
asked
comes
what
down
is
to what
life?
Everyone knows that like every cell in your body is fucking alive. The discussion is when do we like afford rights to a human being? It's completely different, right?
No,
That's
it's
Not Latin.
not.
Not Latin.
It's
There will be no
literally-
challenge.
100%.
There will be no
1,000%.
challenge.
I've
Yeah.
known this since fucking high school.
Top
dog.
Dolphin is right. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
we
I was
have-
gonna actually say I'm sorry, I was just gonna say that like, okay, listen, life does begin at conception, okay? So when you have an abortion, you are taking a life, as in you are killing. Okay. I know that's like I know people hate when you say that. People hate that. They hate that. Okay, just because it's a life doesn't mean it's a fucking person. Okay, and it's still
All right,
inside your
well,
body and
we
still
can argue
with
about
up
the
to you
semantics of
what
what
you
life
want to do.
is. When
No,
I
that's not even
use
the
the term
semantics.
life,
It's
semantics.
literally
We
just
shouldn't.
no,
We
it is
shouldn't.
because like I'm
We
not talking
shouldn't
about
argue
life in the
this.
sense. Okay, I'm going to use
If you-
words that are more comfy for you guys. Sentient
What?
life.
Not
The
even
debate is
That's not the
when
argument.
is
That
when is the
specifically
group of
human
cells
Yes.
sentient?
personhood,
Now,
right?
That's not
that
the
is
argument
correct.
because
Arguably-
they banned it at
Arguably-
6 weeks for the heartbeat. It's not about it being sentient or not. It's about whether or not it produces a heartbeat. The
Well,
heartbeat.
they're guessing at what
Literally,
sentience is. They're saying,
No,
it must
no,
be
no,
my
no,
heart.
It's not about
Wait,
sentient.
hold on, Matt. You're making a lot of sense. First off, you can
Matt,
argue. It can be argued that
if you're
newborn
from
Wakanda,
babies are probably
I
not.
don't know,
It
man.
can be
You're not
argued that
showing
newborn
up today
babies.
for Wakanda,
It,
bro.
it
All
can
right,
be
I'm
argued
ready.
that newborn babies technically aren't sentient, right? Like, but they're
Yes.
clearly like people. Okay, like I feel like, and also like it doesn't like I know that when we're getting into the weeds with these things, it's I feel like we keep talking about like when is life this, when is life that, but when
What
it
is
comes into it, like
sentient?
what are not the woman's choice, like whether something's just in her body and she just wishes to expel it. I feel like that takes top priority over like everything else, like just like everything else, like that just takes top priority in this. Does
Right.
anyone
This
disagree
feels
with
like
that?
a
Yeah.
Star Trek
Yes.
episode,
What I'm
the
trying to do-
conversation was
So
going
I,
somewhere.
I want to say to Sig, is that I perfectly agree with this. Is what I said last night when we did our AMA, and that, like I think the fetus or the zygote, that's a person. That's a person to be, and so we recognize this other times.
Actually, hold on. You think
Is
it's
it a person or a
I
person
know.
to
I
be?
yeah. I say person. I say that.
Person.
Yes. 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 You heard me right. Person. Right.
Okay.
And I
This
say
person?
that because there's no. I don't see it's convincing to others that this is not. That's not what it is, right? If a pregnant mother gets shot, right? We say it's like a double homicide, right? If they get in a car accident, then they say that we lost 2 lives, right? But now, specifically in this area, we pretend that like it's like we have different rules, and I just don't see like I think that it would be better for the pro-choice movement, and I am pro-choice, that we don't play these semantic games. That we actually say, hey, this is a person, but I am giving a priority to the adult woman. Right? I'm giving give priority to her and what she wants to do with her body. But to run away from it, I now legally I understand there's a difference. Right now, you have to have a difference in terms of like the legal aspects. But like when we're actually trying to convince individuals, trying to convince them to our side,
You shouldn't lie.
yeah,
Yes.
I just don't. I don't see like running away from this. I don't see like, oh well, it's a zygote and it hasn't gotten so far, and so that means right. Like I just embrace it and say that this person, this woman or girl, like she is the most important thing. She should be able to decide what she does with her body. That's where I think the fight should be.
Yeah, Prime and
Right. So
everybody
I actually
agrees.
agree.
Yeah.
Hold on,
I
wait.
agree.
Everybody agrees with this
Yeah.
because I concoct this hypothetical that I always do. Say there's a woman that's pregnant and she does want her baby. So she's not a person that doesn't want her baby. She's a person that does, right? If someone was to have some colorless, odorless gas that doesn't affect the woman at all, but it does in the life of the baby, would you consider that murder? And most people that are even pro-choice would say, yes, that's murder. And then you have to ask why. Why would you consider should she be able to legally, should somebody be criminally charged in that situation? Your answer would have to be yes. And because your answer is yes, you have to admit that, yes, we're ending the life of something. What you're saying is that the value you place on this life is the value that the mother places on the life, which is, to me, is abhorrent and is like, I can't even understand how people get to that. But like if I asked you that question, you would say yes. Somebody should be charged with murder.
And like the thing is, like I don't disagree with that, right? Like it's absolutely true. I think we are, when an abortion happens, life is ending. The point is that this is still subjective in nature, right? Like we're deciding that this is how we want to define it as humans, right? So like my point, and like I've considered that before Prime actually had said it last night. I was like, actually, when Prime said it, I was like, oh, hey, that's what I think too. Cool. My point is that because we have a subjective understanding and we can never have an objective understanding of what this is, we have to understand that since we're drawing the lines ourselves, that we can't look at the folks who disagree with us and do so with vitriol. We need to figure out how we can work together to come up with a system that works. Like, generally speaking, I think we want to reduce the number of abortions that happen in all the different ways, right? Like, we want to promote contraceptives, we want to promote education, we want to promote vasectomies even, right? Since it's a reversible thing. There's a lot of things we can do.
Celibacy.
Right. We could promote a lot of things to reduce the need for abortions while still maintaining its legality. And that's like the point is we have to create a system where we can work with folks with a different subjective view.
No, that you're going at this all wrong. Now, I'm not going to speak for GSU and Azee, right? They have their own perspective on this, and let them say that for themselves. But like the other side is not looking for a workable system. They're looking to have zero, and they're looking to have more babies in general. Not looking to take care of those babies, right? So once they're out, they don't give a shit about what happens to them afterwards, right? Don't give a shit if the mother and the baby are living in poverty, but they want more babies, preferably white for a lot of these guys. Let's keep it real, right? But they want more babies. So like, no, they don't want to get vasectomies. No, they don't want, like, I was just talking to a woman the other night. Yes, I was talking to a woman the other night, and she was telling me about like getting her tubes tied, right? And she wanted to do so. She wanted to do it as soon as she became an adult. They made her wait till she was 30, right? As if a woman doesn't know like what she wants to do. They infantilize her immediately. And this is a common thing. Months ago we talked about this on the channel, where women who want to take control of their fertility are told no. Like they don't understand the concepts. Like, honey, maybe you should wait a little bit, right? Honey, like you might want, like, at some point you're gonna your what's called your clock, your biological clock is gonna go off, and so then you'll know, right? So why don't you just wait, or you need the permission of your husband to do it, like in this day and age now. So these people, like you're saying, what you're talking about is a workable system among people who have slight differences on pro-choice, like when we should do these things, right? Like how long is too long to wait to have an abortion, right? Like if you're pro-choice, then there's a system that we can work and come to a consensus at. But if you're pro-life or anti-choice, if you're anti-choice, then there is no system. It's zero. That's the system. Have the baby. Good luck.
So I agree with you. I agreed with everything you're saying up until that last part, where like you're talking about like what the folks who are anti-choice are. I think there's like actually a pretty wide variety of reasons that folks are anti-choice, right? There is like there's people who are like very anti.
Are we gonna keep memeing with anti-choice?
Apparently.
Oh.
I mean, to be fair, pro-life is kind of memey in itself, isn't it?
What if I said instead of pro-choice, you're pro-murder, right? You see how this is?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what they're doing. Like, I mean, that's it's all semantics. They're playing with it.
But it's legal.
Genocide.
Okay.
So
very correct distinction. It is not murder.
So fine. We can do. We can do. I mean, I'm fine with pro-life versus pro-choice, whatever. Like the point is that like people have their stance even on the other side, where there's like nuance to why they are choosing this path, right? And like if you want to split up that group of voters and into distinct tribes, the way to do that is to please some of them with a different approach, but not all of them, right? Like you can't make everybody happy, but there's some folks who are pro-life or anti-choice who would be very happy to have a system that saved or prevented abortions. Like I legitimately think that. I'm not saying
some
it's universal.
Yeah,
I agree with you what you're saying.
Yeah. But I think the organized abortion, like the ones that you're going to have to actually fight. You're talking about the ones that can be convinced. I'm talking about the activists out there, the ones encouraging violence, right?
Well, you're not going to convince them, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the organized anti-abortion, right? Like it's zero. It's not a matter of coming to a consensus. That's imaginary, right? Sometimes they play that game with you. It's imaginary. Don't bother. Don't fall into that.
Right.
I think the overall the overall premise of the idea that we essentially don't have a hard concept of when we want to consider when life begins, whether it's at 6 weeks when the heart beats, or at fucking 3 weeks when it has, or whenever it starts to get some neural patterns and stuff like that as it gets bigger. We don't assign a consciousness to it, meaning it is not a human in the sense that we are human, in the sense that we are complete human beings. We are capable of functioning as a human being autonomously or with some assistance or help, but generally able to do the things that we want to do in a sense, right? Babies would technically not fall under this purview because they are not able to do anything. They're essentially fetuses that have taken physical form in the outside of the realm until they grow up to be able to stand and other stuff like that. Now, I wouldn't say you obviously couldn't abort like a baby like that, right? You couldn't abort like a baby. Even someone to even make the extreme argument saying you could like say that same thing for teenagers, right? They're useless they're not productive in any way. They're not any sort of human that we may have considered to be an adult in some sense, right? And obviously you wouldn't argue for that extreme level of like, kill these things, kill this baby that's just born. It's still perfectly fine. That's still an abortion, right? But if it comes to a point where it's I think for me personally, it has to be a time before any sort of actual like form and brain waves are commonly taking place that control most of its functions. That would even be something that allows it to
Kill it
feel
before it thinks.
yeah, around whenever that time would be, right? Like, wait, and I think that would be more or less okay. To be like, okay, well, now you have to realize that you're taking a life and not actually just killing a consciousless, soulless being in a sense. Like it doesn't have it. What is it? It's just a bunch of cells that are forming to become something.
So,
it isn't anything yet.
Well, can we?
Wait, can I ask a
Can we look
question?
at the?
Go ahead.
I feel like
give it a try.
Yeah, y'all just regurgitating the same thing over and over. Do y'all have any? So, like, do y'all see any restrictions on abortion being a good thing? Like, let's say it's the day before the mother is going to give birth. Are you saying that the act of birth is what grants human rights, or
no?
I actually hold on. I don't know. I think that I was gonna
understand everybody that's pro-choice's opinion, right? Because there are people that I've talked to that are like, hey, the day before birth, yeah, she can have an abortion.
I got an answer for this, but Sig and then Chris.
Okay, the day before.
Yeah.
Hold on. The day before. Okay, the baby is
just have a C-section, right?
Okay, you literally can just not a C. You don't need a C-section. Maybe if the head's big, yeah. But like you can just make them take a pill that will just induce birth. You know that, right? Like it's the day before. You can just make them.
I know
birth
this.
right
Wait, but that sounds like really fucked
but
up.
No, but wait.
Wait, that's not. It's not fucked up. No, that's not fucked up.
I don't know.
Why is that fucked up?
Like if they don't want to take said pill to like have the baby, and then you like
no wait,
induce
yeah,
birth,
Sig, I feel like you're not answering my question. The question was, are you for any restrictions on abortion? And if so, what are the restrictions that you're for?
I suppose I would be welcome to for restrictions on abortion when it's like when I say not necessary. And when I say it's not necessary, it's like what you said like the day before when you could simply induce birth instead. I suppose then I'd be for restriction. I suppose that would be
when you
though.
say
Honestly,
not necessary, do you mean not life threatening?
not
I'm just so I'm gonna try to help you out because maybe
you can have an abortion. You can have an abortion at any point in which the mother chooses to do so.
Oh, yeah. So that's contradictory to what you just said.
So up until the last
day. Up until birth.
Well, okay. There's no such thing as like a last day before birth. The day that the doctor tells you, the day that the doctor tells you that
it's an estimated
I was born,
day.
like, for example, I was born a week late, for example. Okay,
yes,
like
I know this.
It's not a set in stone thing. So like the day before, there's no
such
thing.
Which is why we have to ask you, what is your prescription?
Nothing has to die the day before the projected birth date. Nothing has to be killed.
You're not engaging with what he's trying to do. I really want to yell at Gambit, but like first, Chris Cosmo.
Wait,
maybe
am I really not engaging?
Wait, can I go?
Maybe I'm real stupid right now because I don't understand what you mean. Are you saying like?
Can I try to help you?
What you're missing the point because like he was giving an example.
I think I can help him. I think I can help him really quick, right? All right. I'm gonna give you my stance, and then as a like retaliation somewhat, I want you to give me your stance, right? Okay. I believe abortion should be legal. Well, I don't want to use legal words because, like I said, I don't know where I stand anymore on the state having these powers, but I'm okay with abortion if the person was raped, if there was incest, if the mother is definitely going to die or at a threat of dying. And there's like, I think one or two more. I can't remember them right now. But in those cases, I generally think abortion is
The child
a
is
good
likely to
thing.
come out with some sort of like, birth defect or something.
It's not even about that. It's about it's like it's like non-consensual sex. I'm not okay with forcing someone to have a baby as a product of non-consensual sex first, and then second, if somebody's going to die, I think that you have the right somewhat to protect your life, and like I don't think you should have to go through with a birth that could end up in you dying if there's like significant threat of injury. So that's kind of sort of my prescription. So I'm trying to ask you, Sig, what would your prescription be?
There. Okay. Whenever the mother sees, or for not soon not sees fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's not about any of the stuff that you were saying about earlier about life or anything. It's just that. Okay, gotcha. Cool.
It's not. Oh yeah. Oh okay. Wait. Hold on. What do you mean things about life? I said no, no, no. I can still be fully consistent with that, right? Like I can still acknowledge that this is a life, right? Like sure, it's a life, but I'm just saying that it doesn't actually matter, or at least it doesn't matter as much as the woman's will. Straight up. I like these two things. This is not contradictory to me. I fully acknowledge that it's a life, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the woman's will matters more. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
Cool. No, cool.
But what if there was a way you could get the baby
Hold on, sorry,
without?
hold on. I want to. Chris Cosmos waiting.
Oh yeah. Well, I forgot what I was going to say before, but I'll just answer JSU's question. I'm okay with it so say up until the baby is viable outside the womb. Like if we could leave the womb and survive, with medical assistance, that's where I put the line at. And also, like you said before, life-threatening events. If it's like two lives like on the line, I believe that woman has the choice to choose to survive. Other than that, like I'm all for the woman's choice. Like I just see like up to a certain point, like if you're like a month, or like a week before like your due date, and the baby can come out at any point, right? At that point, if it could be a relatively successful pregnancy, and you can go ahead and give birth. I'd say you just do that rather than like aborting right there at the edge. Like that seems like I don't know why someone would do that. You waited out, you went that far. Like you might as well give birth and just give the baby up for adoption if that's the case. But before then, right before then, when the baby's not viable, outside of the womb, I think it's the mother's choice all the way.
Ding
yeah,
ding ding.
Yeah. So my problem here is this. I hate this. This is what conservatives always do. Well, sorry, not conservative. Sorry, Gambit. I apologize. Pull it back.
No, it's fine. Destiny called me conservative.
Yeah.
We yell at.
You mean,
So it's
you mean to
an
say anti-choice?
I meant to say anti-choice. This is
Pro-murder.
this is what the other side does, is this nonsense, like hypothetical one, like that. This almost never happens. This is almost never happens. And if it does happen, there's some serious shit going on. Serious, like at that point, like if you're considering some sort of procedure like that, like the day before, let's use that, the day before something terrible has happened to that child, right, or is happening to that woman. This is something like that does not get
You're using
performed.
an obscurity. You're using an obscurity to say that the principle doesn't matter.
No.
That's
I'm not saying that the principle doesn't matter. No, I'm not saying.
Yeah,
I can
I'm asking for
engage with the
no, no.
principle. But I'm stating first that how ridiculous the hypothetical is, because this is trying to.
Wait, this isn't a hypothetical. I asked for his stance. This isn't a hypothetical at all.
Or whatever.
I said, hey, what's your stance on abortion?
However you want to call it, right? Whatever. However you want to call it. But like, this scenario, the scenario that you're painting, is so rare, right? And when it happens, it's an emergency. right? Like if you have to do it that late into the pregnancy, there something is deeply wrong for that to happen. These things aren't done lightly, right? Like at that point in time, like a woman already knows what she wants to do with her fucking baby by fucking 8 months. So that's why I try not to engage with this, but let's do it. If they need to have an abortion at that point, right? I think, well, personally, this is just my personal opinion, right? But like I think that one, absolutely for the safety of the mother, right? At any point in time, that they should be able to have that abortion, right? And again, if it's going to be late, then it's absolutely the case that there's something wrong with that baby, wrong with the pregnancy. But if you're saying that, like, well, I guess the scenario that this tries to paint is that a woman who is like 8 months and 30 days 29 days into her pregnancy, right? Like has what, a panic attack? Like I don't even understand. This is why it's so hard for me to engage with this. I don't even understand what kind of woman would do this. So is she having a panic attack and then deciding, okay, now I'm going to have an abortion? Like, what is the scenario at this point for no particular reason?
So I
think you're spending a lot of time on this, but we would much rather understand what your principle is. I don't want to have
the principle that you can have the abortion
whenever. So you're kind of like sig natural.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, like, what this does, right, for an audience that is viewing this and taking this is like, whoa, that sounds like super unreasonable. Like, yeah, like why would you have an abortion? Why would you have an abortion?
You just have to lay out the nuance.
Why would you have an abortion at that point in time? Like, why would you do that? That's, yeah, I mean, like, maybe we should restrict it. But here's the thing: when you put these restrictions on, there are going to be people who have exceptional circumstances that they are dealing with, that you bar them from the medical treatment that they need. That's what you're doing. So instead of doing that, right?
So you can say that if it's a life-threatening case, then you're in favor of it to protect the life of a mother. Nobody's
what if it's not life-threatening? What if it's not life-threatening and just traumatic, right?
Then you have to make a prescription on whether you think that's okay.
Yeah, I just did.
A lot of births. What do you mean by traumatic?
So if there's something so severe, like the baby is going to die, like the moment it's born, right? Like there's something wrong. There's a birth defect, and this baby is going to die the moment it gets birth, right? So there's not life threatening. The mother will be okay otherwise, but it's going to be a traumatic experience.
That's a great qualifier.
Okay.
But a lot of mothers still choose to have the baby. There's a lot of women who still choose to have the baby.
How do you know? First of all, you're just saying things now. You're just saying
no,
things.
I'm not,
because I choose to have what baby? A baby.
So I'm looking at actual statistics on this, right? For fetal anomalies, can't say the word right now. Wow, that's horrible. There's actually not very reliable data on how many. There's like literally nothing I've been able to find on like what percentage are actually lethal abnormalities. What I can identify though is that 94% of women who've had abortions after 20 weeks said that they had barriers that delayed them from getting the abortion. Things like raising money for the procedure, not knowing about the pregnancy, difficulty securing insurance coverage, trouble deciding about the abortion, not knowing where to go for an abortion, difficulty getting to an abortion facility, and then disagreeing about the abortion with the man involved is the lowest number. That was 20%, right? The highest raising money for the procedure was 65% of the women who are getting late-term abortions talked about how difficult it was for them to raise money to get the abortion. So I think the fact that there are barriers are to women getting abortions are causing more abortions late enough that we'd be etching the territory of like, when is the fetus considered alive? And so I would argue that reducing delays in the abortion happening, allowing women to do it, allowing more facilities to exist, making it free, et cetera, would actually reduce the likelihood of a late-term abortion happening. Although it's only 1% of all abortions anyway. Most abortions happen Under 13 weeks, 91%. 8 weeks, 91%. 8 weeks is 8% is 14 to 20 weeks, and then the 1% is after 21.
There's been something like 26 million black, whatever the hell y'all want to call. I just say baby to make it simple, but there's been like I think 26 million abortions since 1970. 1% of that is a large number. Right.
Well, this is just for the year 2008.
Oh, got you. The 1% is
so who knows what the percentage is? Like these are all.
I agree with you on that for sure.
So I want to go back to what the line is, and the thing is I'm going to preface this with I am not allowed to make this decision. I should not. My opinion is largely irrelevant because I don't have a uterus to provide the birth, so I don't feel like I have an opinion. I just don't feel like I am entitled to use that opinion to inform policy in a direct manner. There's others who have.
Should you not be able to?
A little bit.
Should you?
It is a little bit.
Should you not be able to be involved in policy that affects more than black people? This is silly.
No.
We live in a society.
In a sense, it is virtue signaling.
It is. It's 100%.
However, I legitimately, honestly, don't feel comfortable dictating terms. I really don't. I actually don't like the idea because I don't have the. It doesn't impact me directly. It won't.
We advocate for social policy that's going to affect all Americans. We don't have a problem doing that.
Me, though, right? That is directly affecting me. That's okay. I want to live in a country that doesn't suck.
Yeah, but you actively. Hold on,
I wouldn't argue economic policy for folks who are in Venezuela or Brazil, right? It's not I could say, well, you guys.
We're going too far on this. We're going too far.
That's different because you don't live under the Brazilian or Venezuelan government, right?
Yeah.
So my boundary here, what, I'm also going to say that I have a hope for a technological solution. I would like to see, and maybe this could happen in sci-fi world, where you don't even have to worry about the abortion. You could literally just grow the baby in a tank or something, right?
You should watch Polarization. But go ahead.
Why y'all worried about that?
I
gotta talk to.
Go ahead, Sig.
I gotta talk to.
We'll go. We'll go to Sig. Jay Cook, if you want to say anything, and then Chris.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I feel like the thing of just if you don't have a uterus or your opinion matters less, or you don't get to prescribe things. I feel like this is ultimately kind of fallacious here, okay? Because the bottom line is men need to be able to make decisions about this because men are in control of the government, okay? Men are just in control of the legislators, the majority of the politicians. Men are going to be signing their names on the things. No, I'm dead ass. This is literally just the reality of what's going on, okay? Literally just the reality of what's going on.
No,
is that
you almost
men are
hit
doing
it.
These things. No,
he missed the mark by so far, bro.
He missed it.
The target was right in front of you.
He meant to say, which would have been the better argument.
He's trying to dismiss the argument to move on.
As well, so they have just as much to say.
This is the gun, and this is the target.
Let Sig finish his point. You can find out what his point is.
What are y'all even talking about? Whether or not I'm just saying that we actually do live in a society, right? And so these sorts of things kind of affect everybody. Also, the people that are saying for me to even be hey, it's this person's choice. This is how it should be. This is how these things matter. You obviously just have an opinion on these things. I don't know. I feel it's a strange thing to be you shouldn't have an opinion on. Obviously, I feel you shouldn't tell people what to do with their bodies. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it.
You're anti
my sperm and you can't have it. What is
if hold on, you didn't let me finish. If it's not hurting anybody else, okay? And whether if it doesn't hurt anybody else is kind of the thing, right?
It applies to
someone else.
Oh my.
Sure, yeah, you believe so.
There's a lot of nuance.
Let's go to Jay Cook and then Chris and Azee.
You guys said a lot. Where do I start? If it's your sperm and we can't have it, put on a fucking condom. Honestly, it is have you guys ever thought of what giving birth is like?
I've been through
at all?
Yes. Yeah, I have a lot.
All the time.
Terrifying.
Sounds torturous.
You can't eat. You know that, right? You cannot eat the entire time of labor. I honestly, like there were valid points. I don't want to come off like very angry. But
Be
at
angry
the end
here.
of the
It's
day,
okay.
like
Be
Yeah,
angry.
you can be
No,
angry.
that's
We
fine.
will still
Yeah,
love
all
you.
these all
Be
these
angry.
men,
That's good.
the patriarchy.
I'm gonna go ahead and
no,
mute
but
my
seriously,
screen.
No,
seriously,
tell
like
people to go
at the
fuck
end of the
themselves if
day,
you have
like
to.
it is my choice. Like it is a birthing person's choice. It's not just like women who are born naturally, it's also trans men who can give birth. It is scary as a Black woman to give birth, period, point blank. Like that's also a statistic that is very real. Like I think it's still
4.1.
it's either 3 to 4 times more likely than a white woman to die in childbirth. Like that is something that's real for me. Um I'm not saying that abortion is the answer, but I'm also not a person that's gonna have kids. Um for people who don't have that choice of, of having kids, then it or becoming pregnant. I'm with Prime, like you up until something is given away from the womb, right? That fetus is ejected from the womb, all for abortion, all for it. I applaud it. It needs to. I don't get why it's so crazy for men to like think it's okay to control a woman's body. I don't get it.
Oh.
I honestly I came into it. I don't know why I'm getting so worked up. Like I came into this very chill, and like I read the article, and I unfortunately didn't have enough time to do research. But I would have, because like I don't know. It's
This is
So-
this is
wear a fucking
another
condom.
this is
That's all I
another
have to
success
say.
story where you come in here chill and then you leave in a
So
very
you're-
different mood.
She thought she could womansplain us
she's
without
gonna
research.
now you're becoming one of us, right? We gotta raise each other blood pressure here. All right, so we're gonna Chris, Azee, topped off and Sig. Okay.
I just wanted to push back on Matt Lyden, like the whole like I don't have like I shouldn't have a say in this is I can think completely wrong. Your opinion is
All
support
right,
for the
I'm gonna give some
Hey.
personal anecdote real quick. Just
Hold on, hold
no,
on.
no, no,
I know. I'm just gonna.
I'm gonna
I'm
give
just
the
gonna put a
reason why.
whole. I don't even care.
You
Like, let me
can't
just do the thing real
Kanye
quick.
people continuously.
So-
Matt Levin.
I'm going to. I really didn't want to get into this personal story, but fuck it, I'll do it. So the first
What?
time
Right
I
in-
ever.
you're gonna Kanye right in the
No,
middle
whatever,
of
it doesn't matter.
Chris?
Just let me just do the thing. I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna do it, but I'm doing it. So the first time I ever had sex, the woman got pregnant, right? Right? Like this literally happened. Like I
Okay.
Yeah,
experienced this, I lived this,
I
right?
can't believe it personally.
And like I had to make a call, right? Like what is my stance? What am I going to do? And like the only thing I could possibly do was be as supportive as possible and just let her choose. That was it. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to support you because you are going through this. This is your body. Like our fuck up, fine, but this is your body, you choose. That's it. Like I'm not going to let my decision or your decision be impacted by what I want. And it sucked. Okay, like
well,
it's not fun. It's not easy. I didn't want to have to make this decision. Like
You-
my choice was to let
Now-
her make the decision.
if you would
I
let me
don't mean to,
finish,
and I
you
don't mean
would
to
have
chime
understood.
in.
Hold on.
I don't mean to
Data.
chime in. This, what does that have to do with? I just want to say, what does that have to do with legislation? Which was the point. Okay, go
Right.
ahead, Chris. Go
Okay.
ahead. Wait, please. I'm sorry.
Chris.
Okay. My point was, right, you saying that women need to have a choice in that matter, like that it's their choice, that's you having a say, that's you having an opinion, and that opinion is supportive of their choice. So you at all times should be giving that opinion out. It should be saying that thing and be of support of women. So whenever like we have these conversations, like, yes, that's my stance. It's their choice, right, in the matter, right? You just opting out and saying like, like when you say that, it's just like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, of course you have a say. Of course you have an opinion, and that opinion matters. Like we all vote on these things, right? So when you go in to vote, right, that's going to be your vote. I vote that women should have a choice in this matter, and that choice should be whatever they choose it to be. And that's all I was saying, right? I would wasn't push
It's
Wait,
true though, isn't
Madland,
it?
I have a really good question for you,
Damn it.
Doug. Okay, let's say
Yeah,
that the
okay.
prevailing opinion among women was that women should not have the choice to get abortions, and that women should and that abortion should be legal. Would you support like the narrative of like all
Wait,
women in that case?
So I'm sorry. So you're saying that
Like,
a majority of
hypothetically.
women are anti-abortion, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
In several counties, this is actually the case, right? In
Right.
several
So we're
places in the United
so we're
States,
talking
this is true.
about like as a group, and so like it'd be like similar to what we're getting right now, except like, I mean, okay.
It's not hard to answer this, right? It sounds
No,
like
it's not. It's
you're
just
trying
like
to
I have
convince
to.
You say that
Hold
like
on, I'm
I don't
shutting
have
down
a
my
say,
hippocampus.
right?
Give me a second. It takes time. All right. Like I got a hippocampus here that's all triggered by this fucking question. I gotta take I have to like flip off a
It
switch
sounds
here,
like copium
another
to me.
switch,
Sounds like
another
copium.
switch.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
would
much
support.
copium, man.
Copium.
Fuck me. This is such a. I hate.
Like
I'm
Madland.
hurt
No,
now.
Madland.
you
No,
are
I'm
no
not
challenge,
even.
bro.
I'm not
There
even.
will be
I'm
no
not even
challenge
upset,
to
bro.
I
I
just
think this
paid
is.
my rent for
I
the
think
month
this is
because I'm
actually.
living in Madland's head now. Okay.
There will be
Sucks
no
so
challenge
hard.
today. Shout out to
I
your
actually
brother,
think that this
man.
is a really good take here, because like what Madlad said, it reminded you of like the things that like I don't want to say SJWs, but I don't really know what to say. The people that were very much on the left in college campuses in like circle like early 2000s, like 2014 to 2016 type, right? Where it was just like, you're this demographic, you don't really get to have a say in these sorts of things. But when you take it to things like abortion and even like black liberation, for example, okay, you start to realize that like a lot of these demographics are more in power than others. Okay, so like it's actually really great to have the support of people that are actually in power. In this case, it's great to have the support of men that want women's liberation.
But,
okay,
but no,
like men
but
with women.
He's trying to say two different things here, right? So he's trying to say something slightly different from what you just said. So it's not about support. Like he's there to support, right? He's saying to support women and what they want to do. Like, and so in terms of and relating that back to black liberation, you want our white allies to support, but you don't want them to necessarily lead, right? To tell us like what we need, right? You, like in office, like you want people to make the decisions, because if they're the ones in power, right, then you want them to actually make those decisions, right, and like step up if necessary. But in the end, like they should be still taking the cues, right? Like President Biden should be taking his cues from the LGBT community if he's going to like give solutions for the LGBT community, right? Not just like, I'm a white man, I'm gonna come up with whatever the fuck I want here, right? It's gonna be great. Like this is like, that's like white feminism bullshit, right? Like
taking cues is really good. I like the idea that you put taking cues, but ultimately, Joe Biden and his like are the ones that are in power in a material sense.
Yeah,
I'm talking in material sense. He is the one, just like LBJ before him, just like Abraham Lincoln before him, had to go on to sign the dotted paper, sign their little very white names onto the dotted line, okay, and make this shit happen. All right, it doesn't. None of this shit, none of the marches, none of the wars, none of the fighting would have meant anything if they don't do that. And that's why, like I know you're saying like they have to like take cues, but in the end, they are leading. Material.
I know, but like, where did that legislation come from? Like, where, like the for the civil rights, like where, like, why did they sign that rather than something else? Right? It's because they took the cues of like the movement, gave them an idea, right? Like, this is what we need you to do, right? In the end, of course, these things are moved around and like watered down. That's how legislation is made, right? And you need someone in the
negotiations with those in power.
Exactly. But you're still taking cues from the movement, right? Because the movement is why it's happening in the first place. So I don't know, but I'm not sure if it's worth arguing over. But let's move on to some other people. Let's go to Azee, Top Dolphin.
Wait, I want Madland to
Chris
answer my question.
All right, hold on. I'm preparing to answer your question. All right,
are you
ready? Hold on.
Matt, he's doing it again, bro.
No, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna answer your question right now. I just need to change the environment just a little bit.
He's very dramatic.
I am very dramatic. All right, hold on. I'm trying to make this red. I don't know how to.
Oh my god.
Hold on. I got it. All right.
He doesn't even know what he's doing.
No, I do know I don't know what I'm doing. All right, fine. I have been summarily owned by Chris Cosmo and Top Dolphin. They have eloquently demonstrated that I was incorrect in absolving myself from the stance of from my I'm trying to separate
What are
my
you about to
stance
do?
from the politics of the matter. I can most certainly have an opinion on this topic, despite my choice to encourage women to choose.
Why'd you
guys are
turn the
correct,
lights
and I
off
was
to say
wrong.
that?
I was going to make it a big red glowy
Yeah.
effect because my XSplit wasn't working.
Okay.
And
Okay. All right. So
I thought he was about
let's
to
go
seppuku
to.
or
Thank you
something.
very
Like,
much.
what's he doing?
look,
Chris,
it's
did you
really
finish your
hard for
point?
me to do this. I'm a hot mess.
Shut up, Chris. Like, did you finish your
I was
point?
just gonna add the small caveat that, like, when it comes to the rights of any other marginalized group of people, like, I'm gonna stand up for them. I'm gonna like advocate for them. I'm gonna speak out for them. Like, I'm not gonna just kind of disassociate and say like that's their fight, and I'm just gonna stay out of it. Like, no, like I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna have something to say about it. I'm gonna advocate for it. That's all I was gonna say.
Azzy.
Yeah, I just swear, like, from I'm just so happy that we have all these men here to talk about
Oh,
women's rights, because you know
don't
what,
give me that.
I believe in the patriarchy. Men's rights is real, okay, but anywho, listen, I feel like it's a lot of copium going on right now. Like, we're trying to identify. I always hated the sentient conversation. Always
Yeah, it's
hated it.
dumb.
It was like there's so many scientific ways to determine whether or not life exists. Matter of fact, I feel like even the process of determining whether something has a heartbeat is a little bit more scientific and easier to discover than whether or not something starts to think. Albeit, I will bring this up, and I was talking about this before with somebody. There was a few cases, in fact, where a girl has a heart transplant, right? And after the heart transplant, she started having nightmares about being murdered. And apparently the heart that she received was from a murdered girl. And through the details, this you can look it up.
What is
They were
this,
able to
Jeff?
find the criminal after she was able to identify the person who killed the girl.
Tell me the source,
So-
bro.
and
Source.
then-
don't talk
and then-
anymore.
yeah, I'm
Source. I
You
need
need
I
to
need the
manifest
source.
that source right now.
Just call Google right
What?
now. Listen, y'all lazy.
What are
Y'all
we
lazy.
doing,
Azee, hold on.
I already
need to ask
posted.
Azee a
I
question.
already
I
posted
wanna
one
switch,
link.
bro.
Let me
I wanna
post the other link. No, because I have.
As if you
I-
tied this back into
No,
our
no.
conversation.
Hold on.
Give
I
you
said
so.
albeit. This is
No,
what I
no,
said.
I would
Albeit.
give you.
No,
I
I
would
will.
give you a
I'm
sub
tying this
if you
in. I'm
tied
tying
it
this.
in.
I'm tying it
Okay.
in because literally I could say through organic matter, there's memory and feeling through the nervous system of your DNA. Literally, your heart
obviously
can
Ripley's
store
believe it or not.
memory and feeling itself.
The
Not
weird
true.
form of
Didn't happen.
genetic
Literally,
memory.
something proves to have a heartbeat.
Did you just
That
say
thing
nervous
is
system of
already
DNA?
storing.
Yeah.
That thing
All
is
right.
already
Azee.
storing memory.
He's talking about genetic
Azee, I have
memory,
to ask
which
you.
is a real
Hold on,
thing.
Azee, I have to ask you a question.
But it's
Are
not
Nervous
jellyfish
system of
alive?
DNA.
Hold on. Azee, are jellyfish alive?
It's theoretical, but through this
Hypothetical,
and
you
multiple
mean?
other
Can you answer this question?
no, I'm not hypothetical. It's
Not
theoretical.
theoretical. It's hypothetical because it's not proven. Theories are proven.
Ah.
Hypotheses are
Oh
not.
my god.
This is definitely not proven. So
What are you
hypothetically
talking
speaking,
about? No, theories are.
Okay, look,
Theories
don't.
are-
Oh my god, we have limited amount of time to do
Oh
this,
my god,
please.
what are y'all
I
doing?
have
Oh my
the
God.
theory
Huh?
long.
All
Not-
right.
What are you
All right.
doing today?
Azee, remember before this
Azee,
started?
Azee, give us a source, please. Please, just give us a source.
Yo,
Yeah,
Azee, I
I'll
thought
go
Azee was
first,
really
but
smart because he had a
wait,
bookcase
what I'm
back there,
saying-
but now I'm
what
not. I
saying
learned
is-
not to trust.
Okay, all right. Azee,
What I'm saying-
we will come back to this the moment you give us that source, okay? Then we can engage with
Are you
this.
You're
All right.
you're really about to dead my conversation. 'cause
Oh
I
my,
just brought it
I'm
up.
sorry. You're gonna throw us all off now with this because we can't concentrate
Yeah.
on anything else but this
Why
claim
not?
that you've made. Because
That's not my problem. That's yours.
Okay, all right. Let's move
Yeah,
on. Top
what?
Dolphin, Signatural. Provide us that link, and then we will come right back to that. Okay, Top Dolphin.
What?
I'm
That's
so
crazy.
lost. Oh, yeah. So we've gone down so many goddamn rabbit holes. I feel like I can swear. Something I wanted to bring up was like it was for like Prime, I think. And like when we were talking about like minority groups and like wanting like the majority groups to necessarily like take their opinion. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there were like times like I don't think if like the majority of the black people were against like the Civil Rights Act that we would have not wanted people to pass it, right? And a lot of times this happens. A lot of times you have people who like with like Jim Crow who are like, this is the way things should be because the way that it is like the only way they know, right? And so like I don't think necessarily saying that like everyone should just bend to the opinion of like
the movement.
I'm sorry?
I said specifically not the population.
The movement. Okay.
Movement. Yeah.
So specifically like the leaders in that community. Yeah, I could like maybe see that a little bit.
Okay.
Something else I wanted to say is I kind of want to like piggyback on what Jay Cook said is that I don't think this is necessarily right, and I'm not trying to like justify why men try to control women's bodies or anything, but from like an understanding point of view, right? I think something that like maybe a lot of people can empathize with is like if you are like a man, right, and you like get a woman pregnant, and then like she makes a decision that like you don't get to be a part of, that kind of feels shitty. And like it shouldn't, and like I'm 100% like it should be the woman's choice. But I think that's like why a lot of men get like super hyper, like have like a really strong response to it, because it feels like, oh, like if I accidentally get a woman pregnant, I would kind of want to keep the baby, but like she could just kill it, and like it would be my say, and like, and I think that can be like a shitty thing. I don't think that the answer to that question is to like,
you don't think they could just
to go get to like make abortions illegal and not like make it women's choice? I think the answer to that question is like, if you're a guy, like me personally, this is what I practice. I don't fuck people without a condom. I don't do it because I'm not gonna have like a child with someone who like I don't trust and I wouldn't like include me in that decision.
Oh, silly!
At least not include me, but like consider my like feelings and stuff.
Okay,
this is so silly.
Let's go to
like,
let's go to Sig and then GSU. Then I want to hear everything. Right.
We're thinking about we're also a lot of people are thinking about contraceptives like an alternate to just like abortions and everything like that, or just like as like a rebuttal. I'm sorry, not an alternate, but a rebuttal to the whole abortion thing. And I'm saying that like all of these things, safe sex practicing, like just sexual practice in general, and all these sorts of like proper sexual education, all of these things help drive abortions down, right? Like if you want to minimize the amount of abortions, just like talking about teaching kids how to practice safe sex and teaching about like contraceptives, having free access to things like birth control and condoms. You should be able to just go to a clinic and just get that shit for free or taxpayer funded, have you. That would drive down abortions more than anything making it illegal. Straight up. Okay? That's all.
Go ahead, GSU, please. And then Chris.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with all of the things that have been said, and
most of it you can toss away. Most of it you can just
yeah, completely. Like Azee, I'm sorry, bro. It's like it's in the trash. But yeah, this whole concept of like
that's really dumb, but okay.
Like,
I actually found the source of the thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I'm afraid to even see the source. But like I feel like this whole meme about I feel like Prime addressed it eloquently, and maybe everybody agreed, or maybe there's still people that don't agree. But like we live in a society, and like this meme about men wanting to control women's body, like to go along with that meme, you have to think people can't genuinely care about the life of unborn, like fetus, zygote, whatever stage it's in, right? Like there are people like me who can actually care about the unborn, and it's not a means of wanting to control somebody else's body and blah blah blah. Like I feel like when y'all do that, it's just a waste of time and it's idiotic. Like,
but GSU, I specifically said, hold on, I specifically said in that
No,
comment.
not you. Top Dolphin said that.
Oh, okay.
Not you.
Wait, I'll address this.
You specifically, I said you eloquently defended against it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't, yeah.
Sorry.
So like if okay, and I'm not speaking about you specifically, Gambit, but if men really cared about not controlling women's bodies, they would do things like support things like contraception. They would support things like sexual education in schools. They would support things.
But
actually the biggest thing is like they would be out there like funding research that like figuring out the whole thing with like women and miscarriages, because women are just out here like miscarriaging babies every day. Right, like on mass scales, they're like. If
you
you're
can't
like
say because miscarriage
like their bodies are murdering children, right?
Miscarriage is a complicated
Let him finish.
thing.
Holy shit, he didn't even finish.
I agree with you. Miscarriage is definitely a complicated thing.
Because miscarriage exists, that means men don't care.
Wait,
That's
no.
so silly.
Wait, hold on. Shut up. You're strawmanning so hard. You're like
You literally
floundering
said
down.
those words.
Okay.
If men
Dude,
really care,
okay,
there's
I'm
like
not saying that
miscarriage.
if you cared, right, about unborn children, right, passing an abortion law is going to save way less children than like funding
No, it's
research
not.
on miscarriages, right? Or like promoting sexual health and sexual education. There's so many other things that like people who are general, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking about you specifically, but people who generally talk about like abortion stuff and the reason I say it's about controlling women's bodies is because all of the other things you would think someone would do who actually care about unborn child, these people are like vitriolically against or don't care about.
You don't think that we look into those things? You're just saying that it hasn't been solved. And then you're going to say I'm strawmanning you when it's the argument that you're making. It's silly.
You were totally strawmanning me, Doug.
You literally said the words. Like, I just said the words back to you so you would realize how, like, brainless you were being. And then you mad at me. Like,
hold on. I didn't say that men want to
you
control
said if
women's
men...
bodies because miscarriages exist. I said
That's
men.
basically what you said.
No,
and I made you
I said
walk it
men
back.
don't want to control women's bodies because if they cared about unborn children, then they would
They would
care
try
about
to fix
unborn
the
children in
miscarriage
all
problem.
context, including miscarriages, right?
You don't...
But
So people
they
are
only
looking
they only seem to care about unborn children, and there's a very one instinct when it comes to like the reproductive rights of women.
Because
So-
miscarriages and abortion are two distinct issues. There's no
100%.
try to
And you can
lump
do
them all together.
Why does like every man on the
This is why
planet
we
have
don't
an
let men
opinion
talk.
on one,
Wait.
and like nobody even cares or thinks about the
No,
other
listen.
one?
No, this is my question.
This is
to you.
why
You think
some men
Wait,
should
Azee,
have
we
no
can
say
kill him
on
with this
something.
easily. Not Joe. Top Dolphin. Joe, I'm reading your comment. I'm trying to catch up. But Top Dolphin, do you think we're doing no research into miscarriages right now?
I'm not. So you specifically, I wouldn't be surprised if you're doing like research and miscarriage.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about
do I think-
society. You said you weren't talking about me. You said we're talking about society. We're talking about men in general, or the scientific
Right, sure,
community.
but
Blah blah blah.
Where are the massive amount of like Republicans out here like advocating for research or funding put into that research? Right. That's like research on miscarriages is like relatively small and niche. Like not many people like think about it or really do anything about it.
Could be.
Right? And
It could be due to several like personal actions that happen.
it's because
during
it's
a
really
pregnancy,
easy
right?
to have it like to talk about fucking women's bodies and their reproductive rights. And then, but
Why did I try to engage
it's so
with this?
difficult
I'm
to
so-
actually put your
I'm
money
sorry.
where your mouth is, right?
I'm sorry.
This is such
So-
I'm sorry,
a weak argument. Like, let's just lean on the women's bodies, women's rights. You know, when we're trying to get into actual discussion, like we're trying to engage in real critical things, and you're leaning on a very like it's almost like I don't even want to engage with the woman's rights because, like I said before, I could say, hey, like don't have sex, don't have, you know, it's my semen, you know, I need to protect my semen, you know, it's slippery slope arguments. Like, can we not engage with like these like we're trying to engage in like a scientific discussion right now.
Right,
You're talking
right.
about
So
women's
tell me,
rights.
where's the political action committee devoted to like research on like preventing miscarriages? Where is it? Tell me, because there's so many anti-abortion like political active committees out there, right? Where's the one like committed to like doing research on miscarriages?
Wouldn't it depend
And
on
how
the
big
type
are
of...
they? Because I guarantee you they're smaller than like the dozens or like
I don't hear the
probably
left.
more than
I don't
dozens
hear
of
the
ones.
left. I don't hear the left or right or any political, you know,
Well,
group out here with this national outcry for.
No,
miscarriage.
let's stop talking about
my
this.
point, dog. You're supporting my
But
argument. That's exactly
what I'm saying.
what
It's
I'm
a
saying.
moot point. It's a moot point because you're trying to now equate miscarriage to abortion.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm saying that if you care about unborn children,
You literally did.
You should care about unborn children in all contexts, right?
Well, a
Wait, but-
miscarriage isn't
but
an
wait.
unborn child.
could
It's
also
literally
think that we could
a
think that
medical-
one
So
issue
wait,
is
you can
simpler
have
to solve.
miscarriages like
it's not
pretty
the
late, right?
it's not the medical. It's totally different circumstance. The miscarriage is like almost sometimes it could be like accidental.
You can have
Intentional versus,
You're not
miscarriages
accidentally
up to
aborting your
24
child.
weeks, dog.
70% of 70% of first trimester miscarriages are due to chromosomal anomalies.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm
Like
I'm not sure
So
how.
where's the
what are you
research on
saying?
those
I'm not sure how
chromosomal
this is the
anomalies, right?
strongest argument, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know why
I
would
mean,
like you
the-
guys
the-
going down this road.
so like you can,
It's
it's like almost
copium. It's
causal,
copium.
right? No, it's not though. Like I get where Dawson's
Ozzy, what are
going
you
with it,
saying?
but
What
like,
the hold on?
Get
What are you
where
saying is
he's
copium?
coming from.
What is copium?
No,
I do.
He
I'm getting a
literally
little
says
upset here.
70% of miscarriages
but here's
because of
the problem. Here's
anomalies.
the problem, right? From their perspective. From
Wait, but you're not putting funding towards
Wait,
like.
hold on. But from GSU's perspective, right? That this is murder, right? Like, can I say that about you?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
From his
100%.
perspective, this is murder. What you're saying, your argument here, Top Dolphin, is like, well, you are saying that you don't want gun violence, right? You don't want people dying, but like, are you like researching heart attacks? Like that's the thing that
What about the
happens when people are
knives?
dying.
What
Like,
about the
Well,
knives?
no, the
you said
comparison
it
would
doesn't
actually
make-
be like comparing
Yes,
gun
Prime.
violence that is intentional versus gun violence that's accidental, right?
No,
Yeah.
What about
no,
the
no,
political
no,
advocacy
it's
for
a
people getting
biological
punched in the
process,
face?
like a natural
What about the
biological
people
Alright,
getting punched
well,
in the face?
I mean,
Prime is spot on.
Huh?
here.
I
No,
don't
can
hear
we
the,
just
the right talking about people getting
Prime is
punched in the
right. Can we
face.
just end it?
Huh?
I mean,
yes,
I
please.
don't actually.
Chris, let's try to take this away from this.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my god. Like just like this is stupid. Like the reason why it's an issue is because there's multitude of reasons why you can get a miscarriage. And like, yes, there's people who have genetic issues going on with their own body. There's research going into that, but it's not relatively like a huge portion of the population. That's why it's not happening. Look, I know this is the last thing I'm gonna say on this abortion thing. I believe women can have a choice. I too, Matt Latin, have had an experience where like an ex of mine had gotten pregnant, had an abortion. I felt really sad about it. But when I got older, I learned, I educated myself. I realized I don't have a right to have a baby, right? It's not in the Constitution or anything or my human rights that I should be able to like have whatever baby like I put into a woman, right? Like I no longer feel that way. I no longer care. If I'm demisexual anyway, if I get with a woman and she's going to have a baby, it's usually because I chose. It took me a long time to get to that point of wanting to be with that woman and sleeping with her. And plus, fuck condoms. If I'm going in, I'm unloading the clip. Fuck condoms.
What did he say?
Yeah,
Wait,
fuck
hold
on.
on.
run
I
that
want to
back.
push back because you guys are being like.
Yo, I'll get it. Yo, I'll get it.
charitable,
Listen,
okay?
listen.
Alright,
Listen,
so
my
they're
niggas, my
very
niggas, okay?
similar
I will
things,
get
right?
it.
Run that
Hold on.
back.
I will
What
get a
did you say?
vasectomy
Finish
before
that
I
last
wear a
line.
condom.
So like, so something we say all the time.
I need a
right?
stenographer
Is
to
that-
run that line back.
Okay.
What did Chris Collins say?
I can't hear all of you.
We'll say that like Republicans don't care about our children, right? Because like they might like talk about children in one circumstance, right? But they're not supporting the education of our children. They're not supporting like children who are in like poor financial like situations, right? It's totally analogous to say that like because you say you care about this being, but you only care about this being in the hyper specific context, and when it's like it
Ending
is,
his life.
It's like women's bodies, right?
Like, bro,
What about
like,
huh?
y'all are doing like
you
so many
literally-
mean- like you can all right, so I disagree with conservatives on their stances on social policy, but you can say that, hey, I don't think the thing should die, and also hold the position that I don't want to have more social policy. These things aren't like they're not illogical. They're like we don't like it, right? Like we would hope that our friends on the right would be more agreeable with social policy, but it's not like an incoherent position to have. There are people that advocate personal responsibility. And they're like, hey, look, you shouldn't kill this baby because you think you made a mistake, but you should also take care of this baby, and that's up to you, right? We don't like it. It's harsh. I don't like it at all, but it's not an incoherent position.
Yeah, like you really, this is just morality being codified into law. This is really the
I mean, it's pretty
this is
subjective.
the most
I mean,
significant
morality is always
reason.
Morality?
right?
I
There's
mean,
tons of types
It's
of morality.
not
It's
about
just like
morality. It's
generally,
not about
generally the morality that we codify in the law is morality that has to do with like how well our society functions, right?
I
And
think we
like,
should,
literally,
step
that's what
away
they're saying.
from-
We're
can we, like,
living
step
on
away
the
from, like-
genocide of unborn children.
I mean, we
That's-
kind of
that's-
are.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
happening
we-
every day.
Okay,
right?
can we just, like,
hold on,
step
hold
away
on, hold on,
from
wait,
the
wait.
whole,
I gotta
like,
say,
Republican?
can I
Okay,
just
fine.
can I question Ozzy something? I just want to question. Okay, Ozzy, what does genocide mean?
Was the
Give him a second, he has to Google it.
the cleansing, the mass murder in huge magnitude of a particular people rate. I didn't look up the
Demographic,
book definition.
Hold
of
on,
genocide.
You
There's
you
no-
had it. Hold on, you You had it.
I know I had
particular-
it. It's just a lot of murder in a very systematic way.
No. You're walking back now. You're walking back now. You know, people of a particular race, ethnicity, religion. You know, ethnicity, things like that. All right. It has nothing to do.
Well,
with
that's why I said the genocide of fetus.
That's not what genocide is. Then, okay, then it's not genocide.
Mass murder. If that tickles, you know, if that floats your boat, you know,
If you
that tickles
consider
your
If it's
fancy.
legal, it's
know?
legal. It's
Yo,
not
why
murder.
y'all
And also,
doing
that's
this
not how.
shit?
This
And
is
also,
so
hold on.
low-hanging
That's not
fruit.
how mass.
This is
Also, that's
low-hanging
not how
fruit.
mass murder.
Why are y'all
Wait, what
doing
the
this
fuck about it?
shit?
How is this?
I mean,
how
this
is
What
this
is
low hanging?
going
look,
You know what? You know, Ozzy, you're right. You are low hanging fruit. Okay, my bad.
Wait,
I
is
know,
the
like, what are you
abortion?
doing?
Wait. I
don't
think
know
I
why we're
fi-
getting so triggered
Wait,
because I said
Azee,
genocide of the
Azee,
fetus.
I figured out what's happened here. There's no real reason to back the nonsense opinion. So they're just doing nonsense. I've never seen Sig do this. I've never seen anybody on this panel react like this. I think y'all have found out that your position on this is like illogical a
copium.
bit. So you're just like, hey, yo, what's a genocide? Like, what are y'all? What are y'all doing? Like,
No,
this
y'all
is
can't
insane.
argue.
Gambit. What's
There's no.
you gotta
All
be
I've heard is
inflammatory
these.
now.
I've
How do
heard
I-
a lot
how
of
is my
leaning
opinion logical?
on women's rights, defend women's body. There's
Yep.
no sentient life, which is very. It's
I don't think
very
anyone's-
hard to prove sentient life anyway,
wait,
which is why,
I
which is
found a
why I
study.
even, which is
I
why I
found a
even
study on
tried to hold on.
Uh.
Matt, you are definitely not about to Kanye me. I'm Kanye here. Okay, okay. Listen, at the end of the day, the reason why I brought up the memory transference in DNA and cell was just like a semi defense against the sentient sentient position, the sentient fetus. That's the only
Just
thing
sentient.
I that's the only reason why I brought it up, because literally you're saying because they can't think or feel, they're not alive like us. Well, that's all I was trying to say, because they have some type of cells and some type of heartbeat, which means they have the heart organ, and the organ can possibly maintain some type of physical memory.
There's only one guy who said that.
I literally hold on. I literally
they can
said. I
feel.
literally said in the
Does
Does that
it's
mean
beginning
not
that
a-
it was
masturbation is
light.
It's
genocide?
not
I
a
literally hold on.
Oh
I
my
literally
God.
said in the
Y'all
beginning that it was
y'all,
light.
This is,
That's what I said.
y'all don't have any defense.
I said it.
This is what I'm
I
said it.
finding out.
Yeah,
Y'all don't
okay.
really know what. Listen,
So I'm just gonna like
if I
go
I
into,
agree
like,
I
legitimate-
agree with women, right? Some men shouldn't have a say on women's rights, and it's men like you guys, because y'all don't know anything what you're talking
All
about.
right.
I gotta
Okay,
ask
well,
Gambit.
okay.
Gambit, I have to
Miscarriage
ask.
is
Hold on. I
equal
have
to
to ask.
abortion.
Memory.
Okay,
Miscarriage is
okay,
equal to
okay,
abortion.
we're gonna have order. We're gonna have
Condoms
order.
don't
Hold
work.
on. Yeah.
right.
F condoms.
What?
Like
Okay,
what do we?
all right,
What do we?
anyway.
That's what Chris said.
Okay,
Chris
all
and
right,
Top Dolphin
sure.
literally espoused these points
Well,
tonight.
like
Okay, all right.
ridiculous.
Here's what we'll do.
Against all of
Here's
like conventional
what
sexual
we
health.
will do. Shut up. Great. All right, so we're gonna go to Madland and we'll go to Sig Natural. But I'm gonna say something quick. And that GSU. Not. Oh, sorry. Did you have your hand up, Jay Cook? I didn't see your hand. Was your hand up?
I did,
Okay.
but later, yeah.
Alpha palms in front of the camera so I can see. All right. But yeah, thank you. But GSU, not for the last time. Not for the first or the last time, but I wish we were in one-on-one conversation. I don't have to do
We will.
this.
We will. I promise.
On any goddamn subject. Let's do it. Let's just have a fight.
Yes.
Not deal with this. All right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I promise.
Matt Lab.
All right, great, cool. So, the first thing, I'm gonna sort of directly talk to Azee a little bit here. The heart thing, like, I really wanted, like, this is more myth than like reality. Like, one doctor suggested that this is the case. There's no corroborating evidence past this guy's book called like Heart Feels or some shit. I don't remember what it is, but I sent you the link. It's in the VC chat. What I did find, though, that's very significant is a link to a study that was done determining kind of like it's fetal behavioral responses to interaction, right? So like this is like a more accurate way of at least trying to determine when sentience actually occurs, right? And based on the study, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I just kind of went through it and I didn't understand all the numbers and how they put it together. But from what I can tell, the earliest indicator of sentient life that occurs with a fetus is at 16 weeks. But the majority of the interactions that occurred in the study was 21 through 24 weeks. Now, I feel like this is going to be arbitrary regardless, even with the study or whatnot. But like, if we're actually trying to draw lines as to when we should consider a fetus like sentient, which is the determining line for some people. I'm not saying it's for everybody. Like a lot of people here said that sentient life doesn't matter, but like for me personally, if I was trying to draw lines, I would look at when sentience is occurring, and that would be like an indicator,
Well,
right?
I just want to. You're not looking
So-
at when sentience is occurring. You're looking at when the reaction to maternal voice
Right,
and touch.
exactly. True.
That's
Is
but
absolutely true.
But you do agree that there's a possibility, at least,
Yes.
that our faculties cannot engage with, where you could be sentient and not be able to respond
Sentient,
to
not
touch
aware.
and voice.
Absolutely true. I 100% acknowledge that.
It's not sentient and not aware. It could potentially be sentient and not have the ability to respond.
Right. I 100% agree that that is a possibility. But remember, we're using the word could
200%
here, right?
agree.
Like we don't
Yes.
actually know. And
Yeah,
that's
for
the
sure.
important part, right?
Yeah.
So like,
yes.
and the thing is, when discussing like what policy should be, there's enough unknown that we can't actually like necessarily figure out a known to, that kind of undermine our efforts here, right? So like, I think if we're going to draw arbitrary lines, we should be as generous as we can. I was looking at the history of what abortion was, and like prior to abortion, it was like outright infanticide, right? Like, this is like a global phenomenon that has been, and like that's the crazy thing is like our standards 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago on what an abortion is or what was like okay was like, okay, the baby's out, but like, we haven't had any learning yet, it's okay, right? Like there was actually cultures that had this going on. And I think we're moving progressively as our technology has advanced and as our culture has progressed. We've gotten earlier and earlier on that number, right? I don't have I like topics where I can actually give like an outright correct answer, and I don't think we have an outright correct answer past support people who are pregnant in determining the decisions that they are making, right? At the end of the day, like I did all this research, I looked up all these statistics on like where the inputs are coming in and like the history of the matter, and like at the end of the day, I can't say anything past abortions are happening earlier in the term. We should support women who are pregnant in determining making that decision, and hopefully one day we'll have a technological advancement to the point where we don't actually have to have this discussion anymore.
Okay, let's go to Sig, and then Jacob.
I feel a little salty, a little triggered. Okay, only because Gambit is saying like apparently I'm arguing that apparently he's saying that I feel like my argument's like illogical. Gambit, what is illogical about what I'm saying? Okay, you seem to think I feel illogical.
Yeah.
What do I believe is illogical?
Yes, I wanna answer that. So notice the silence earlier when I asked my question. And as you all sat back and you were like, damn, Gambit has a point. So I'm not gonna respond to that. That's when I knew that all of y'all agreed, right?
Wait,
So the question I asked,
hold on,
I'm going to give it back to you. So the question I asked earlier was, if there's a woman who cares about her baby, she wants to have her baby, and then there's a person that enters the room, they have some colorless, odorless gas that's not going to affect the mother in any way, but it is going to end the child's life. Would that woman be right to have the system seek criminal charges of murder in that situation? You're going to say yes, because you feel like, oh, well, she valued the child, so the child has value. But if the mother
Prime answered, okay, the reason why
nobody answered.
What?
But
the reason why I was quiet? Oh, the reason why I was quiet was because Prime answered and I didn't want to interrupt Prime. You literally asked that, and Prime literally started talking.
No, he didn't.
He did. That's how. All right, we
no
got
one answered that.
It's okay. Sure, you're right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't answer it because I was scared. Someone else started talking, and that's why I wasn't going to interrupt them.
Go ahead.
But, like, if you
You
want
have the floor.
if you want me to know, but if you want me to know about the crime of like murder, I suppose so. It's kind of weird, right? Because it's not that often that I actually don't know what it's counted, because we have cases like this where like there's someone induces like a miscarriage on a woman that didn't want that to happen. Okay, so like when it comes to like,
let's not think about legality.
I legitimately don't. You talking about in a moral sense or in a legal sense?
How do you feel? I don't want to talk more. I don't want to talk legal.
In a moral, okay, you don't want to talk legal. In a moral sense, yeah, moral sense, sure, yeah, the mother should try to pursue in a moral sense, but like in a legal sense.
But if she does it, it's completely okay. The same kid, but she does it instead of the other guy when she doesn't care about it. All of a sudden now, all of the vindication exists, right? That's what you're saying.
What, okay,
you don't
okay.
think that's
So
illogical?
no, I don't. I actually don't. I don't think that's illogical
crazy.
whatsoever. Tell me what's illogical
Boy,
about it.
that's crazy.
The value that you placed on the child in the first example, where it's killed by a perpetrator, was that the mother valued the kid's life, so therefore
about
the
the mother.
kid's life has value. So what you're saying is that you valued the mother's opinion of the kid more than you value the kid.
I said this multiple times. Yes, I said this before you even brought that shit up. I literally said that should be the top priority. It's not about. I feel like you and I are having a disconnect when it comes to like moral absolutism a bit compared to like relativism. Like I think it's relative, literally depending on what the mother is doing. It's not like, oh, I believe therefore it's absolutely the baby or baby nice. You made me say baby nice. You got me. But I was gonna say the soon to be baby. The soon to be baby.
So it's
sort of
morally
thing here.
relative.
It's,
based
hold on,
upon
let me
the
finish.
woman?
Let me finish. Please, Azee, please let me finish. It's like the more. It's like what is considered about this soon to be child or maybe child, potential child, right? It's like absolute across all bonds. I don't actually believe that. I believe it's relative depending on what the woman wants, literally, in a moral sense.
So
Yes.
if
What about
she
the woman?
wait. So if she doesn't want the baby and she's going to seek an abortion, let's say she's going to seek an abortion tomorrow. She finally got the funds, but a person does the same thing and she goes to court and she says it's murder. Would you say this is not murder because at the moment when the child was murdered, you didn't want the baby?
It was against her will, right? And also the person can't know. Like this is like, okay, let's say that someone's suicidal, right? And they're going off to kill themselves, and then somebody suddenly murders them. Is that murder? Well, of course it's fucking murder, right? Because the person didn't consent. That mother didn't consent to what was going on.
It's also murder when they kill themselves, but yeah.
Well, it's
it's
that I feel like
suicide,
that's also
Which
that's
can't be
dumb, but
charged.
sure. Self murder, I suppose. But yeah, sure. But that's beside the point, right? Like literally, yeah, no, that would still be a thing because she didn't consent to that. She
I
consented.
mean, I think
She consented to it.
the thing that like Gambit's missing is that like
That's not illogical.
we might say that like the you might say that like, oh, the odorless gas question, if you kill the fetus, right, it's a murder, right? But we aren't saying that like, or not a murder, we're saying that it's wrong, but we're not saying it's an equivalent wrong. It's not the exact same thing as if you were to go like kill a person. These are two separate things.
Wait, you would get the same charge? You would
No,
press for
wait,
the
hold
same
on.
charge?
Because wait, you said morally. If you're talking about legal charge, I would call it
Okay.
something different. We
You
can
keep
call
saying-
it infanticide.
Yeah.
We can call it like
Yeah,
feticide
okay,
or something.
let's not go
Yeah,
illegal for sure. So you're saying that
So I
the
would say it's
person
immoral, but I wouldn't call it.
You're saying that the
same thing.
person who kills somebody kills me, and somebody that kills me while I'm inside of my mom, that there's a different level of morality or immorality that you would assign to those two people on ending that life. I don't think you
Yeah.
would. This
I
doesn't
have a
make sense.
question. Okay, Gambit. This is like
Is
a
the answer
philosophy
yes?
meme. Okay.
Is the answer yes?
Yes, but
You would say,
okay,
oh, that person's not as bad as
Hold
that
on.
person.
wait, hold on. I have a question for you. Do you know of the like
doesn't
the
think and feel like us.
moral question? It's like if you woke up and you were suddenly like attached to another human being via dialysis, like if you like, and it was against your will, if you decided to
Became
unplug yourself and
Siamese.
like the other person dies, is that like murdering them? Like what would be
If
your answer to
I
that question?
became a Siamese twin
No,
through
You
sleep,
talking about a,
Yeah,
are you
so
talking
you
about
so
a
you go to
parasitic?
sleep, right?
dialysis.
You go to sleep and you wake up and somebody against your will has attached another human being to you, and that human being is reliant on you for life. Let's say you're giving that person
wait,
blood.
yeah,
right?
I can go back to the principle that I laid out earlier to answer this. Just like I said, if somebody is raped, right? I think that abortion is okay. In this situation, whatever the fuck manual procedure that happened to attach someone, in the same way I would be okay with unplugging and whatever happens. Yes.
Yeah, I
So
really
So
think you
within
guys
the
forgot
principles
that
that I've
all of
laid
this.
out,
but
that answers the
I
question
think-
that you
but
just put forward.
the response to
So
that would
Gambit,
be
that
that
person's
like,
life
So then
matters
my
more
next
than
question
yours.
would be like, okay, so same thing, except you decided, right, that like this
Wait,
that you
you
were
want to
going
answer?
to hook yourself up to said person, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going to go with this.
Right?
If I voluntarily hooked myself up, then I would say, in my framework, it would be bad to just do that. Yes, just
Alright.
relating it to abortion. Yes, I would say that the same way I feel about
So
abortion. I would feel
accidental
in that
pregnancy
situation.
versus intentional pregnancy, is that where we're going here?
Yeah, I've said that from the beginning.
Well, no,
Or
no,
consensual
no.
pregnancy
Hey,
versus
No, that's
like
not what you meant.
Yeah, consensual.
non-consensual
Yeah,
Oh,
pregnancy.
those,
consensual.
yeah.
You mean
Yeah,
you mean
not
consensual and No,
Yes.
you mean
Consensual and accidental are different.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Consensual. It can be
I meant
consensual.
consensual.
It can be consensual sex, but the pregnancy can still be accidental.
Yes, consensual
Yeah.
sex is the bar. Yes,
Okay, all right.
for sure.
Jacob,
I translated that, but yeah, it should be sex.
accidental versus negligent.
No. We mean
No.
we mean consensual sex. We do mean what we said.
Consensual
we do.
versus
Why?
non-consensual.
yeah. Okay,
Really?
look.
No, but
Jacob, take us home because we got to move on to the next topic.
Wait, I thought Coke was gonna say, "Oh."
yeah, no, I have two, so I want to finish this and then
You
I
said
did
you had a
want to
question
make
for me
one
too.
other point. I'm sorry.
You said you had a question for me too earlier. So if you want to end and then ask me a question, I'm fine to answer.
Oh no, it wasn't it was well, now it's a statement, it's not a question
Oh,
anymore.
cool. No problem.
But to your point, so you're saying that like consensual, right, and accidental is like one column, and then consensual and planned is another column, right?
I'm saying only consensual and non-consensual. Accidental, I don't care. That doesn't matter in my framework. Whether
Okay.
you accidentally got pregnant or not doesn't matter at all to me. Only whether the sex was consensual or non-consensual. That's why I laid
Okay.
out rape, incest, blah, blah, blah. Because I don't
Okay.
feel like in those situations, and by incest, I am specifically talking about minors. I don't think minors can consent to sex. That's why I
Mm-mm.
consider that type of incest non-consensual.
Okay.
It's like rape. It's pretty much the same. Too.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, like two kids is same difference. Like that shouldn't happen, obviously. But my point, and we didn't get to address it unfortunately, but in terms of like, is this law destructive? It's interesting at the end of the article, or actually it wasn't in the article at all. But I found it interesting that like some private companies have kind of stepped in terms of the bounty piece of the law and have said that like Lyft, for example, and Bumble, like a lot of Texas-based organizations have said that they would actually help their employees that, you know, get suited for this law. I know we don't have time to touch on that, but I found that very interesting.
I think the Supreme Court
I
said they're interested in this because of that too. So yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna move on. This just so much time on nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because we don't actually have like an objective way of dealing with it, right?
No,
Like,
I don't know that was the case.
Well, no, I think it
we
really-
just spent a lot of time.
You heard he just agreed with me. Just FYI, he like
we have subjective. Whatever, it's fine.
It doesn't matter. We're moving on. Okay.
Yep.
So before we get to the next topic, if you've been enjoying the stream, if you've stumbled upon the stream and like what you've been hearing, or it's just been entertaining, whatever, right? Hit the follow button, make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. I do 6 nights a week. Don't want you to miss out on all the content that we do. So hit that follow button right now. ! social and chat. For our social media, follow us on Twitter for channel updates. Jump to our Discord where we'll have all our conversations. Want to be a part of these conversations, be a part of the Discord, be a part of the community that we're building there. And then subscribe, like, and comment to our YouTube. That's where you'll find the VODs. If you're missing the VOD, that's where you'll find it. On the YouTube. That's where it lives. Help us make that sustainable platform as well. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Oh my God. All right.
That's right. We're not gonna do closing on this.
We never do closing. We never do closing.
Wait, can we? Wait,
No. It takes too long, and no, and we got
20 seconds.
Let's move it. R. Kelly has been convicted of sex trafficking after years of denying and dodging accusations. How do you feel about the conviction? How should the Black community look at R. Kelly and his many accomplishments? What should be done with his discography now that he is a convicted felon? Okay, yeah. So R. Kelly finally went down for all the terrible things that this man has been doing. I mean, what he's been up to has been known for decades, but only now was it earlier this week that he was finally convicted of his many crimes. And so I want to understand, like, where do we go from here with this artist? Because still, this, I mean, like, despite that, he is incredibly accomplished, right? And his music is loved, and some people don't want to let that go. So how should we look at all of this? What we should be doing moving forward? Not just us, but also like corporations that provide his music. I want to look at all of that. So we'll start with Matt Wright.
So I think the way this works, because I know they do this with Mein Kampf, is that if someone who has done something bad is selling books, so like copies of Mein Kampf can actually be bought in bookstores, the money can be sent towards a specific agency or organization, right? So I'm pretty sure like all the proceeds from that book go to I forgot what the name of the organization was. So like legally speaking, there is a way of still selling R. Kelly's discography and sending the money somewhere good. And I think that would be like the optimal solution. I'm obviously glad that he's justice has come for him. But yeah, I think that's what should be done with his music. Just find out like a judge, civil suit case, whatever. I don't know exactly what the procedure is. I'm still looking it up. But like, just make sure the proceeds go to like women support or something relevant to his case.
Okay. Gambit.
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation with some people yesterday on my podcast, but also like this conversation been happening for a long time. So I think 14 years old when the R. Kelly video came out of him having sex with a 14-year-old, and he claimed it was his brother, I believe. Um, R. Kelly has been disgusting to me for a long time. I don't listen to his music at all. Since I saw that video, I have not personally intentionally played an R. Kelly song, I think like twice in my life since then. So I absolutely hate everything about R. Kelly. He's disgusting to me. Now I do believe in redemption, even for people that do really bad things. I don't know where I lie on this. I've been like thinking about this like probably for like the last like 2 years, but I do see in our community where we do tear down our heroes, and I think it's a good thing. I think other communities don't do this. So you take people like Elvis Presley, who I think was either married or engaged or having sex with like a 14-year-old, right? He's still widely celebrated as like the king of pop, king of rock.
He's
But
also a racist, but
Rock and
yeah,
roll.
yeah. So it's like it's not simple to me anymore. I was in an argument with some people and they were talking about how we tear down our heroes, and I think we rightfully do that. But if other communities aren't going to do it, I still think it's right that we do it, but it does put you in like a moral conundrum somewhere. So I'm widely against R. Kelly in almost every way possible. I do think there should be some path to redemption for everyone, but I do think that the crimes when people commit them against kids are the most heinous than anything else that can be committed. But yeah, so yeah, I don't support the guy at all. Yeah, I'm happy that he's going to jail for sure. I don't remember what the question was specifically. How do you feel about the conviction? I love it. How do you think the black community should look at R. Kelly and his accomplishment? Yeah. So there, yeah. Just really quickly, he accomplished what he accomplished. I'm not a person that tries to separate the art from the artist in cases where there's children involved. I think it's disgusting. But yeah, he is the greatest of all, one of the greatest of all time for sure. But yeah,
Sig.
that doesn't alleviate.
Yeah. R. Kelly, he's a diddler. He's also one of the greatest R&B artists to ever do it, right? Which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But when it comes to separating like the art from the artist and all that stuff, I don't know. I don't really think it's that easy. Part of me wants to consider it a personal choice, and that's how a lot of these companies like Spotify, who removed his, and I think XXXTentacion's music, from their list and all that stuff. A lot of them are doing stuff like that, and I feel that's up to the companies whether or not they want to make that decision or keep it, if they want to like profit off it or whatever. I think there's definitely an ethical argument when it comes to like profit, giving these people profit. Like, let's say R. Kelly still profits off it if you like listen to his music or buy his stuff or get his things or access to stuff.
that's still pretty bad. It's pretty awful, you know. But I think that like when it comes to separating the art from the artist, I think personally for me it's a very difficult thing to do because I always like looking at the context of everything and the context of how everything's made. R. Kelly's made a lot of love songs. He's made a lot of songs about fucking, frankly. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to listen to those songs the same. You know? All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Azzy.
Yeah, I really well, I like GSU kind of said what I was gonna say. I was gonna meme, but then I heard Mad Lad's point, and I was kind of like, huh? So basically, R. Kelly is going to jail. I think his proceeds to go to his children and all the women that were actually affected in the actual events. You know, all his victims, per se, whether they thought they were whether they thought they were compliant or not. Uh, I think all those proceeds should be up there to help them. He has 3 kids. I feel like they should be able to live, they shouldn't be subject to the sins of the father, just because the rest of the world wants to have a say so. Um I barely listen to his music. I barely listen to secular mainstream music. Um while growing up, even while today, most of my music is instrumental, orchestral, and yeah. And I whatever R. Kelly song that's in my playlist, I don't hold any personal conviction. I don't really care if it's in my playlist. If it comes up, yeah, I'll still listen to it. I don't really hold, that much, feeling towards it. It's a song. It's great. He's not my hero. I don't have many heroes that are alive. Uh I don't really care what the black community chooses to do with him. He's going to jail. He's probably gonna go to jail for a long time. And if you guys want to, cleanse your playlist because you have some type of moral conviction, do so. Do so. You know, if it's causing you to sin, get rid of it.
Okay.
For yeah.
All right. So let's go to Jay Cook. And let's try to speed it up because we want to get to the discussion. We don't have much time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I think his conviction is great. I'm glad he's going to jail. He wasn't a good person. Look at his accomplishments. He's won like 3 Grammys. Big whoop. Like, I don't know. There best male R&B male like artist, best James Brown, Whitney Houston. Like, there's so many other people. Um, yeah, no, I think that the Black community should do nothing with him because he's again not a good person. He's a child molester, and he's a rapist. So yeah, his discography should go nowhere.
Okay. Let's go to Chris.
I am strictly separate the art from the artist where you can separate it. Yes, R. Kelly is terrible. I'm glad this conviction happened. Should have happened a long time ago. But I realized that R. Kelly's music is more than just R. Kelly. There's other producers, songwriters, things like that. He's credited for writing tons of people's songs. Like, should we discount those songs? Right? Should we throw out all of this other stuff where he's connected to it? Like, I always say, like, one of my favorite writers of all time is H.P. Lovecraft. Everyone knows he was a staunch racist for most of his life, right? A complete racist. But like the art that he's influenced, his art in general, like his writing, is some of the most like incredible like I've ever seen, right? So I can separate his that out from where the art begins because it contributes something useful to the world, I think. And where tons of things in history where like terrible people have contributed that we use and like we engage with on a daily basis. Should we just toss those things out? No, we just realize and we acknowledge that those people are terrible and we do away with them. But where things are useful, we keep them and use them.
Okay. Go ahead, Top Dolphin. Beautiful. Oh my God, so eloquent.
Yeah.
So
I agree so much.
All right,
This is
here I
most
am.
Listen to
Critical
R-
point.
he's listening to R. Kelly
That was
right
the
now.
best point of the
No,
night.
I actually don't know a single R. Kelly song. I think there's one
La
like
la la.
Lies.
I know the
He's
name of
lying.
one. I think
That's
there's
a
like
lie.
Ignition.
Wait.
It might be. I don't actually know what that song sounds
Where
like.
did he
All
grow
Black
up?
Hebrew.
I actually
With the wolves?
They're pro-
Prime left there. I actually don't know like any R. Kelly
Fanatic.
songs. Okay,
The dynamic
that being
Huh,
intrigue.
Fanatic?
said,
Prime
I'm
sub
in, hey,
that.
yo,
intro.
I'm in the middle now.
uh-huh.
Go
This is
ahead,
not
Tom.
Top Dolphin's intro. Come on, this is during his intro.
yeah. All right. So that being said, I think it's kind of weird that we like anytime someone like makes like a mistake in society, and like not to say this is the same as like any mistake. It seems like we as people want to just like ruin everybody's lives completely on every front, right? If someone like is unfaithful to their like partner, oh, they should be fired. If someone accidentally says a racist thing on the internet, oh, not accidentally, purposefully says like a racist thing on the internet, oh, we should dox them and get them removed from their employment, right? I don't know if that's necessary. Like this guy committed crimes. He's going to prison for it. And if personally you feel like you don't want to like support things, like that's fine. But I personally don't think it's like necessarily like a big deal if you like support said person's art. If you want to find ways to do it without monetarily supporting the person today, sure, like that's fine too. That's all up to you. But I just think that like so many people have done so many bad things. And if we never like bought something that supported someone who's ever done a bad thing, like society would just like cease to function.
Okay, Jamal.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to like. Yes, R. Kelly is bad. Go bad jail, bad now, forever. Probably, hopefully, for the rest of his life. He should never see probably any of the money that he makes from any of the music that is played or made, and it should go to victims and as well as his family, because I mean, he still technically is like that's still his work. I mean, like, we can argue whether or not we feel like taking away the complete rights of someone just because you know they are a fucking criminal. But in terms of where that money goes, because that work exists and it will continue to exist, and why would we get rid of it? It's art, right? At the end of the day, unfortunately, it's tied to a person that is awful, just like a bunch of the things that we believe now. A lot of our ideological like learnings from when we were kids were taught from like people who are slave owners and shit. Even religion, a lot of religion for Black people is a religion that was forced on them by another group of people. I mean, like it's one thing to say that, you know, he's an awful person and that music should never, you shouldn't play it, or I wouldn't play it, or whatever. Like, okay, sure, that's absolutely your choice. I mean, I don't even listen to R. Kelly music, honestly. I can't think of anything that's been on my playlist. And I mean, we all probably sang one song during graduation, I think. It was like fucking I Believe or I Can Fly or something. But like, yeah, it's he's already going to prison. He's serving his time for what we think is, as a society, I guess, deemed appropriate for the crimes that he's done. Let the money at least go to something good, at the very least. Don't just let it sit there and just fucking or just disappear. That's kind of stupid.
Okay. And a very late comer, Mr. Fanatic.
Whew. Yeah, well, this is going to be a hot one. So yeah, I think R. Kelly did some absolutely heinous and disgusting and deplorable things, and I think that makes him a deplorable person. And I think because of that, it makes all the sense in the world why people would want to see justice done to a disgusting and deplorable individual like this. But as is typical, whenever we end up dealing with Black men within the criminal justice system, this is somewhat of a miscarriage of justice. I want R. Kelly to get the chair or at least get life in prison. I'm not really a big fan of the death penalty, but I would like him to get life in prison. I want him to go down forever. But I don't think that we should be trumping up charges in order to do so. And the charge that he was actually charged with in this specific case were racketeering and sex trafficking. They literally tried to use RICO charges against him. We understand the context where RICO came from. We know what RICO means. We know what those charges are supposed to mean, and we know what those things actually are. To end up misconstruing these things or to loosen what they actually mean in order to try to apply something that will stick to R. Kelly, I think is disgusting. And I think one of the worst parts about this is this creates legal precedent. And this legal precedent will then be used to charge other Black men for other things when they want to misuse these things, because Black people are typically the ones who are the recipients of miscarriages of justice. I haven't listened to R. Kelly in God knows how long. Since all the nonsense happened with him, I felt like his music was so disgusting that it didn't need to be listened to. I wouldn't do that. Now that that nigga's being charged, now that he's going to be put away and he's actually being punished, I can go back to appreciating the songs for the songs, because without a doubt, R. Kelly, it was a freaking hero to a lot of us in the sense of being literally one of the best producers of all time, writing some of the best songs, not just producer, also a writer, one of the best writers of all time, writing some of the largest singles for some of the biggest hits that we all know for other artists. Singer, also a particularly talented singer who like literally had some of the most whatever shows and his own singles as an artist. He clearly displayed talent and tenacity and all of those other things. The thing is, I feel like there's always this thing where people want to completely dehumanize the victim or dehumanize the perpetrator whenever it's a black person. So we can look at other people who do really evil things and we'll look at and try to say, oh, well, you know, this person was, but let's look at the good of this person and let's look at whatever. But in this kind of case right here, where it's like, no, this nigga's just a monster. And he is. He's a disgusting, deplorable human being. But I do think there is some humanity regarding him that I feel like is always overlooked. But we can get into that over. This is just the opening. But yeah, I think he's a disgusting person. I think these charges are ridiculous. They should have got him for the stuff that he originally did. But he used his money and his power to avoid some of those things by paying off some of the previous victims and getting them to testify nonsense like that wasn't me in the video, despite their parents and aunts and relatives and friends all testifying simultaneously. This is her. We know her. We know we had a relationship with her. So, like, yes, this is her. We're very well aware. And then she says, that's not me in the video. And that was going to be a hard thing, which is why...
Yeah, I remember that
being able to
Boondocks
get that last
episode.
thing. Yeah, it was pretty absurd. So I think the fact that he can get away with that kind of thing, it's disgusting. And the fact that he continued it is disgusting. And even though there might not have been anything illegal regarding these 18-year-old girls that were there at his house, I would probably say there seems like the elements look like they leaded towards what's the word? Freaking coercion. But there might not have been anything illegal. I think there probably was. But these were adults. And I think this situation is a bit different. The stuff that he did with the kids, absolutely fry that nigga for that. Give him as much time as possible. And that wasn't the first one.
Okay, all right. Open to the panel. Sig, Chris, Matt Ladd, and GSU.
All right.
Azee.
First of all, Jacob, I didn't say he was the greatest. I said he was one of the greatest to do it. He's easily in the top 10. Let's not kid ourselves. All right, that's it. That's all I want to say about R. Kelly as far as R&B. He's very good.
He's
all right,
top 5.
I top 5. Damn. Whew. All right. Hey, that's fine.
I
Okay.
hate to say it, but we should be honest.
I would accept
Like earnings.
I'll accept
Top 5 in earnings.
Nah, he's top 5.
in
whatever
quality of the R&B.
Earnings.
Oh, let's not. Don't worry about it.
We're not
Just keep
talking about.
going.
And
Yeah.
also, you talked about
doesn't
Grams.
matter.
Grams
Doesn't
do not
matter.
mean
Don't-
nothing.
Oh my
People
God,
come
doesn't
defending
matter.
R.
All right, you're
Kelly.
right. I
The guy's
apologize.
top 5.
I got a little bit upset at that. I was gonna say, in terms of separating the art from the artist and all that stuff, with R. Kelly, like, I don't know, like, can you listen to his love songs and all songs about sex? He sung a lot about sex and all that stuff. But knowing that he was just like fucking all these sorts of people, he married fucking Aaliyah when she was like 15, forged like fake documents just to get her to marry him, somehow got away with that shit. You know, was messing with just like 12 to 14-year-olds for a long ass fucking time. And you can just listen to all these love songs and everything. I can't even listen to Aaliyah's first album. Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. The fucking album cover with R. Kelly in the background and it's blurred and everything, but he's back there. He was the producer on the. I can't even listen to that shit. Okay, because I'm just
bad,
like,
bro.
Jesus Christ,
It's
it's
bad.
fucking horrible.
I disagree. To a
Wait.
point, like when it comes to like Aaliyah's art, like I'm not gonna like throw it away or disregard it or just not appreciate it because R. Kelly was a part of it, right? And like
It's not that I throw it away. It's like I'm talking purely in an emotional sense. It makes me
I get
cringe.
it.
Okay, hold on. I'm actually gonna post this cover. If you see this cover, it's just like you can't even look at it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay.
So
Like,
yeah,
look
I'm gonna
at
still listen to
Soulker.
that album. I don't think that album has a problem. I don't think I have a problem with that album, and I think we start getting really ridiculous if we start saying, "Well, look, we can't even appreciate any of the things associated with these people." House of Cards was
I literally
ridiculous.
just said we can't. I literally said emotionally, it makes me feel sick. That's it. I didn't
got
say
you.
you can't.
Okay, good. I
It's fine.
got you. And and emotionally, if that's how you handle it, listen, I can't ever go around policing other people's emotions, regardless of how unfounded or You can feel that way. I don't think I would ever, and I'm glad that you're not either, would ever put any moral onus on anyone else to follow suit. But there are certain things that I would put moral onus on people to do. Prior to R. Kelly being like charged, for me, I did have a problem listening to R. Kelly's music, and I felt like we all had a moral onus not to be giving this man any money. I felt like supporting his music on Spotify, which is partially how he gets paid, playing his songs and increasing his play count on YouTube, which is what allowed him to continue to make more albums and continue his career. We do sometimes influence with our dollar, and the fact that his numbers were still doing okay and his albums were he still had a decent fan base, I think that was disgusting. And I do think I can say there are moral implications for a sick and demented person that would decide to support a known pedophile who skirted the criminal justice system using his wealth and his power. I think I can say morally you should do that, and I'm glad that you're not doing the same thing regarding Aaliyah and all of the other things when you start getting to something that's a little bit more diluted. I think AJ Nothing But a Number was one of the most ridiculous albums of all time. At Your Best by Aaliyah is probably my top 3 favorite songs, literally, of all time. It is in my top 3, produced none other than R. Kelly, right? Obviously, it's a remix, but whatever. That's a whole other thing. He was an amazing person, right? Like he was. And I think separating the art from the artist, for me, I can absolutely listen to his love songs. There's God knows how many different songs we can listen to where there's so many things about so many artists that we have literally no idea. But a good song is a good song. I like certain songs by a bunch of by Muse. If someone told me later on that these people were commie crazy people, I would be like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. The songs are fire. The songs are fire. Now, there's a difference between appreciating the art and supporting the artist. And only in cases in which you can appreciate the art without supporting the artist should you do so. Otherwise, you're paying with your dollars and validating that person's existence, and I don't think I would ever want to validate R. Kelly's existence prior to him getting convicted. Now that he's been convicted, there are better conversations to be had in order to humanize the disgusting person that he was, because he was a human being and things were complicated.
Mad Lad, GSU, Azee.
So I actually mostly agree with Fnatic on like everything. The only thing I'm going to disagree on is like the history of trumped up charges to get someone in jail. Like R. Kelly is not the first person to experience that. Like this has been going back. Like Al Capone was sent to jail on tax evasion, right? Like this has been going on for a long time. I understand the concerns. Like there's definitely some concerns about like what this process does to the criminal justice system. So I'm still with you there. I just want to clarify that. In terms of his wealth, even if he is getting a lot of views and making money, all that money is being distributed through civil suits anyway. Like there's the victims who are are in civil suits to get money. Even like the building he rented out is in like a legal process, trying to get acquire some chunk of his fortune. He's got like $1.5 million locked away in a bank account that Sony, delivered money to. But all that money is probably going to go somewhere. It looks like it's being decided in the courts right now.
Okay. Next, GSU, Azee, Chris.
Yeah, so I don't know if I support economic castration of people. I feel like I don't know how to make this sound good, even because I don't like how it sounds. But he did bad things. He's going to jail. I think jail is what should happen to people that do bad things. I think removing his ability to make money, I don't like that. I almost don't care what the person did. I think that if there are contracts that were signed and this person makes money when X event happens, regardless of what they do, we don't want people buying his album. And this is Jamal, this is kind of, I was listening to your opening. So if I was off base by what you were saying, then definitely let me know. But I think that if, people have contractual agreements with companies and they do unsavory or deplorable things and they go to jail, I think there's still a right to collect the funds that should be given to them. I don't know if we can say, hey, the money that you make from XYZ record company, now we're gonna just give that all to somebody else. Now I think if there's a civil case and somebody wins a civil case, then they're absolutely awarded whatever money they're awarded. But the economic castration, I think that's a bridge too far for me. But
What is he going to do with the money in prison? Buy a fucking bunch of cigarettes? It doesn't matter. Give it to his family.
I don't.
If
Yeah,
you're,
I
if you're a
think
rich
that.
man in prison, you can do a lot. If you're a rich man in prison.
Well, I mean,
I
like
think-
the point
well,
is
I
that the
don't-
money. Oh god.
And that's not punishment. He doesn't need that money. His family does.
Well,
Wait,
the thing is, though, like this is all being done through the civil suits, right? Like it's not like his money is actually being taken away from him. And I wasn't necessarily advocating for that. I was just saying like judges are going to decide what happens to that money either way.
No, I was replying to Jamali, not you. But
Right.
yeah, it's true that his family needs the money, and I don't know how prison works, but I'm assuming that somebody is the overseer of his estate while he's in prison, or maybe he can still manage that. I
For the
don't
rest
know.
of his life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. But I don't think that's a right to completely disregard the contracts that have been signed. I don't understand how we get to that state.
Well, now it's like, so the money is accruing. It's his money. He's accruing it. It's going somewhere, or it's just sitting in building and doing what?
No clue, but I don't think that we should get on our. I don't think we should collectively decide that money goes to XYZ charity or XYZ.
Why would it just
block.
sit there?
I don't
Exactly. You can't answer
Wait,
that.
wait, Jamali,
actually,
understand.
It's
how you can
made
Goes to
money,
his
right?
estate.
No,
Please.
the thing that I'm struggling with isn't my position, it's yours. I don't know how to respond to the guys making money. It's just into account, so we should give it to whoever the hell
Well,
we
there's
want.
like a legal precedent for what should happen, right? So like if you decide like spontaneously, oh hey, this person shouldn't have this money, and like I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense what you're saying, Jamal, in terms of like, well, the money
No,
is
it
not going to be for
doesn't.
him anyway. However, well, okay, well, this is just me then. The point is that there's no legal way to do that. So like whatever process is
stupid.
involved should
Yeah,
be
you
legal.
can't just commandeer
Yeah.
his livelihood because he did something
That
bad.
being said, there
But
is
You
like the
put people in
precedent for
jail,
seizing
right?
money that like
Like
the
the-
government does
the-
seize people's money periodically. But
The punishment for doing bad things is jail. It's not whatever the hell you're concocting.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but what if there's
what we're
something
talking-
in his contract that says like you committed a crime, you voided this contract, like we're taking the money back. Would
If
you be okay with that?
Exists, That's a different situation altogether.
We don't
If you
know-
start-
with-
if you
unless
start
we
talking
know
about
what his
upholding the
contract
legal
says.
contract. No, but all sorts of like contracts have morality clauses and things like that, specifically for the purpose of making sure that in these sort of cases, a record label or any other, like a CEO of a company, most of the time is going to sign a morality clause, because in cases like this, in which there's something that's incredibly defaming, then that person loses their ability to make money, to manage the company, and so on and so forth. And so as a result, everyone else, the board and the company itself, are at a loss. So as a result of that, then they do typically have some sort of right to whatever. But that would be within legal jurisdiction, and at that point, then I don't think any person should have a problem with that. Jamali, I think the problem with what you're talking about is like it starts becoming way overreach, right? Like, because sometimes there are large amounts of corporations and businesses and licenses and support groups that are like helping to establish literally everything from a business to a nonprofit to a movie star to an artist or whatever. There's so many support groups behind it. It's not like Prime runs this entire thing 100% by himself. There's always going to be some sort of support group and things that are helping to make these things kind of happen, right? So like literally in those cases, then there should be some sort of business or agreement in which the funds can already go to whoever the person is. However, if there are victims, typically though the money for the victims, if there are civil crimes, things that are punishable civilly, and there are suits made, then in those cases those things would go to those people. But all the rest of everything else is not touchable, and I don't know why we would go down this hypothetical thing that you're literally coming up with off the top of your head to create some brand new president in order to start dealing with people's property and the invent of these things, when we already have like hundreds of years of dealing with these sort of situations. We don't need you to come up with something to rewrite the will. We know what to do in these situations, and you punish them criminally by prison or other fines and things like that. You punish them civilly by by other agreements, typically involving cash and other agreements, and then outside of that, everything else you just leave that. We don't need to go down that.
well, there is a
road.
precedent for this, though. It's important to note that there is such a thing as civil forfeiture, where like
Yeah,
police
right,
agencies
and
can't take one.
That's
But it's not
usually
good.
used for like
That's the
drug.
government. That's the government doing a civil forfeiture, and that's typically when you were doing something that the government has already determined this is part of that crime. So again, that
Like
that
you
falls
dealing
in
with
everything I
like
was
drugs and
talking
stuff,
about.
drug busts and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything that you made criminally, then at that point, then that would be the thing. Now, if we were able to say that R. Kelly had himself like a child porn ring and he made X amount of money, of course, all of that money would be done. Anything that you made illegally, the government has the right to seize. I don't think him making Ignition.
Him making Ignition essentially is a way of him making money off of doing his illegal crimes. But while I don't think that that is a thing, I absolutely agree. Sure. I just want to be clear here. Yes, I do think that there should be a way to seize money that is going to be completely not used. I actually do believe that.
Wait, so the money doesn't
Can we
get
ignore that?
like,
We didn't
doesn't
hear you. By
like
the way, you
disappear,
lagged out
right?
at the end of your
The
statement,
money.
so we didn't hear what you said. Just so you know, we weren't talking over you.
Well, it's okay. What he was saying didn't really matter because he's again just talking about like this brand new hypothetical. Let's keep talking about. Let's talk about the actual R. Kelly case. Let's talk about who he was as a person and our general opinions. Like this is not like the time for you to just spitball some random idea about like what some brand new legal jurisprudence that could be created around like a forfeiture of someone's property. Like that. That's a whole nother conversation. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's-
sure. Absolutely,
There's,
sure, 100%. Yeah, you're right. In this case, then absolutely, the right ways to go about this would be to seize his money or to do civil things in that way, and whatever that goes to.
For sure.
In that sense, since we already had the precedents, yeah, absolutely. And in that case, if we're using the system that we're using, absolutely, we're not going to go into a hypothetical, sure, but yeah.
Okay.
There's a limit.
I disagree though.
Sig,
Like, okay,
Sig
so like
didn't get the
any
chance to. Sig was in the line and didn't get a chance to. Oh no, so excuse me, Azee. Excuse me, Azee was in line. Azee didn't get a chance to talk. I apologize. So let's go Azee, then Top.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of grandiose prescriptions going on. You know, a lot of moral takes that are like very, 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 just very extreme. It's like I don't think there's gonna be any type of consistency amongst like if any of your other artists that you name, like Chris named an artist who did heinous stuff. We know all types of artists who did tons of heinous stuff who are still, murderers, still, out here, as like big businessmen currently today. And we're not saying take their music off. In fact, some of those people right now, we're saying, oh, they're still like the top rappers, top singers, top musicians of all time, and we love them. So I just feel like there's a big inconsistency. We're not gonna start saying pull Snoop Dogg's music, pull 50 Cent's music, pull Jay-Z's music.
If they get convicted of a crime, they're going to be sentenced to the rest of their life. If they're not convicted of a crime, then what?
But we're not.
I mean, a lot of those men did some pretty bad. A lot of those men did some bad shit. So you just.
I mean, yeah, I know, but they didn't get convicted of anything.
What?
R. Kelly did for a long time.
What does that matter? This is why I'm
Jamali,
talking about this
that's the
inconsistency.
point.
What does it matter if they're being convicted or not? The fact that they did crimes, in fact, a lot of them admitted in music today, beyond the Afro ethnic music, beyond our culture, even in rock and roll and hard rock, they talk about all types of heinous stuff that they do. Some of the most egregious things I've ever heard. And people just listen to it all willy-nilly, and they enjoy it and they love it, and they probably play it on stream while they're playing their Twitch games. Like I really don't. And
I mean,
I
yeah,
really
for
don't see
that I
fair.
understand.
there's huge, but we're so quick to jump down R. Kelly's throat because I understand your sentiments. I understand the sentiments. I really don't care, honestly.
The degree of the crimes don't right. So like we're talking about other people who have done crimes like murder.
I don't think
stolen
R.
drugs
Kelly
and
killed
whatnot.
anybody.
Well,
Yeah, has
Well,
R. Kelly
the
killed
thing
anyone?
is, and
No,
like
he
Fnatic
hasn't,
actually,
but-
so Fnatic actually said this earlier. It's not our place to judge others.
It's not a place.
for.
That's why I said there's no consistency. We're not
there
gonna
won't
be able
be.
to. Now, like, there's talks right now, like the article that Prime linked. They're saying, should we allow the music to continue on streaming platforms? Should we pull the music because of what he's done? And and what does it say about American culture? If anything, when it first came around, people didn't really care. It didn't they didn't catch as much traction, except amongst like the black proletariat, because R. Kelly was disparaging the black middle class and all that. But it didn't catch traction in America. Then, some odd years later, there's this big media story and everybody's watching the documentary on Netflix or whatever streaming platform. And now all of a sudden everybody is, oh, it's so heinous.
I know, it's
Literally-
crazy. It almost seems
people
like you're
were
pointing
talking
out
about
the idea that if people are aware of something, then they have the right to be outraged about it. And it sounds reasonable to me. So like what you're pointing out is like, hey man, before it was so widespread, before there were actual documentaries, before so many people had access to the internet, when the flow of information happened so rapidly, and it's literally bombarded with Facebook messages and Twitter messages and things like that, such that it's now unavoidable. Before all that, it seemed like people weren't as interested. And it sounds to me like that makes all the sense in the freaking world. Now,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that America didn't care about black women as much as they care about black women as now. And I still think
there were
that
plenty of people that were offended at R. Kelly before when the charges first came out. There were already large amounts of people that were protesting him. There were a large amount of people. There was already the Spotify literally saying that they would refuse to put any of his music on their playlists and things like that. There was a certain level of outrage. I was one of the people who was also particularly outraged. There were plenty of people that were there. We don't have to pretend as if that didn't exist. Now, we also
but that's not the point what I'm making. Of course you existed and your ilk existed.
I didn't just say me. I also mentioned Spotify, which is literally the largest music streaming platform in existence, making concerted efforts to limit his availability on their platform. So we already have that too. So it's not just me. It's not just Spotify. There were also
how are they doing that? I still have access to the music. How are they doing
Spotify did that because, of course, then you start running into different problems where you're trying to consider whether or not it's legal to have an open platform like that, and then to deny a person, they start. There's all sorts of questions about discrimination and things like that come up with there. So what they did, as opposed to just completely taking his music off of their platform, which is what they originally wanted to do before they recognized the legal trouble they'd get into by doing that, considering the person paid a lot of money and how much those contracts were, you've already got your music licensed to Spotify, for them to now violate that. Now that person gets to sue them, and they get to sue them for exactly how much money they would have made over the time, considering at the time when they made that purchase, these are the legal precedents. So then Spotify, being smart, recognized we don't want to pay this nigga R. Kelly quite a bit of money, because if we look at his active subscribers right now, I can look for that really quickly. His actual numbers.
Look at it right now.
Right. So if we look, let me hold on. It'll take me 10 seconds. 4.9 million listeners per month. 4.9 million listeners per month, and that does not say how many times these individuals are streaming said songs. Some of these niggas put their songs on repeat, like people do with my song Mute from my album Soundscapes. So the point becomes, at that point, that you have to recognize. I'm sorry, that was unnecessary, but yes, at that point,
this whole thing is unnecessary. But continue.
No. Spotify would be responsible for having to pay back all of that money, right? So rather than do that, then it's like, no, okay, fine. We won't promote it. We won't put it in our radio. So you don't have access to that. It's not going to recommend it to you for the most part. We won't put it in any of our editorial playlists, which are some of the most lucrative and provocative ways of getting people to listen to your music. We won't do these things. We won't support you in any of those ways. But if people want to find your music, then fine. It'll be there. But they have to go out of their way to actually look for it. We won't be pointing them and directing them to it. And that's what Spotify did, which makes all the legal sense in the world.
Okay, so what does this have to do with anything I said?
It has everything to do with it, because for the first thing that you said was we're really selective and inconsistent. We don't really have this sort of outrage against everyone else, which is absolutely not true. First off, you made this statement, and then you followed that up by saying we weren't really outraged about R. Kelly. So what I did was address to you that Spotify, literally the largest streaming platform, was outraged at R. Kelly, such that they wanted to get rid of his music, but
during
they
the first trial,
didn't have that. So that was that. Spotify didn't exist during his first trial.
I know, that's what I was talking about.
But okay, so during his first trial, there were other protesters that were happening during that time. Endorsement deals were pulled from him. Jay-Z and him had a joint venture that got canceled really quickly because they had a tour. I think the name was with the best of both worlds. So there was that sort of outrage that happened. His concert sales completely plummeted. There was plenty of outrage that happened to him at that time. If you were just not alive or not aware or whatever at that time, then that's fine. But to say that there was literally no outrage during that time is just completely erroneous.
I didn't say there was no outrage.
Okay, so then if we were outraged, you literally said the word. You literally said, Azee, I'm way too sharp for this. I'm not going back and forth with you. So anyway,
I know you're so sharp. You cut yourself all the time. live on
Right.
stream.
Okay, all right, moving
that
on.
the
No,
comeback?
no,
Moving
no,
on.
That was
because he
the
literally
Hi.
interrupt me and just like
Oh my
grandstand
God.
it. Yeah, a lot of you said, everything you said is valid, but it's not contradictory.
Okay.
I don't really understand when you just do that. You just like get up. And I'm glad you're here to enlighten us, but you
Okay.
really didn't contradict anything I said. I said there was not as much pushback as there was today because literally America was not for black people and and crimes against black women as they are today. There's a lot. It's a lot easier for the media to push, any type of like what's the word, any type of wrongdoing against the black community. Now it's just the thing to do. They throw it out all the time on all media platforms. This movie blew up because it made sense for it to blow up. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Back then when it was okay, there was not a lot of media attention on it. Yes, he lost deals.
It was okay at
lost
one
Are you
point.
saying
his
that
pockets were
thing?
hurt.
When was
But
it okay
right
to
now,
pee
right
on?
now,
When was it
Go
okay
ahead.
to pee on 14-year-old little girls on video?
No,
Because I wasn't around when that happened.
I think what he's trying to say is that they take these things more seriously against
they take it a
minority
lot
women.
more
I
seriously.
think- I
No,
think
they
that's what
just
he's
didn't
trying to
have the
say.
evidence. A lot of people were outraged,
I don't know.
just like I was, and there were a lot of people that was outraged. There wasn't the large amount of evidence, and as evidence became more and more revealed, people started taking
Let's
a more
go.
and more harsh stance against R. Kelly. That's just the
Top-
history of what happened.
Top Dolphin had,
All right.
had something,
Okay.
and Chris had something. I want to make sure they got it. And Jacob, is that your hand up? All right.
Yep.
Oh wow!
Top
Again,
there,
just
Just so good.
perfect. Beautiful points that he is making.
Oh, I said let Jay Cook go first because, like, holy shit, I don't even remember. Azee's taking us for a goddamn trip. I don't know where we've
Every
been.
time.
I think I'm on Mars right now. I don't know.
Every time.
Okay, I'm gonna try and pull the thread that I feel like Azee might be going down, and is kind of what Gambit, I think you said in the beginning, in your opening. The idea of like tearing down our quote unquote heroes, in the Black community specifically, and I don't know. I guess for me, I never thought of R. Kelly because I think I missed that. I was the generation like who had just missed that boat, but I never thought of him as a hero, and I guess I'm curious from everyone's perspective of what does it mean to you for this to see this happen, one. And I think that I'm asking this one because I feel like some of us are of different generations, and then two, why is it a moral conundrum? I think Gambit, you'd use that, and I'm wondering like, how is this?
Yeah,
How is that?
for sure. I'll try
Because
to
I don't get it. I'm asking like, because
Mhm.
yeah.
I'll try to answer both of those, and then we can pass it around. R. Kelly was a staple in almost any Black event I went to as a young kid. He was played so much that it was like the norm to listen to multiple R. Kelly songs per hour at any Black event. So when these things came out, it crushed me a lot that I saw that our community was supporting somebody that was committing such like heinous acts. It's also true that he produced some of the greatest music of all time. So there were a lot of people who do try to separate the art from the artist, and I don't. I'm not making any moral prescriptions to those people. I just can't do it with certain crimes, but I understand that a lot of people can. And the moral conundrum is like even in myself, Chris Brown, right, who has serially beat several women. I still listen to his music, right? So like it's like there are certain crimes where I don't understand where I draw the line. I think maybe child crimes is it. I don't know though. But I can listen to people that have murdered people. I can listen to people that have hit women. I can listen to people that have done like a whole bunch of like disastrous things. But I can't listen to R. Kelly because he did something to kids. And it's like I don't apply this same principle to like you could make the argument that murder is worse than child crimes. I don't know where
I was
it's hard.
trying to.
But
I
But
was
like,
trying to, but
yeah, but
I that's what I
hold
was
on,
talking
hold on.
about.
So
Like we literally people who've done actually I considered worse. Like life was lost in some of the
I don't
crimes
know
committed
if
by
I
other artists.
consider murder worse though, and I don't want to get into that calculus. But murder's bad, yeah, for sure. Like it's like maybe the second worst crime. I don't know. Shit against kids and they're like innocent. I don't know. I put that shit like in a different bucket. But that's why it's a more conundrum to me because one, I can see even in myself that this line is arbitrary and I don't necessarily know where it comes from. It's just phenomenally happening to
No,
me.
it comes from
But
culture. It comes from culture and
I don't
typically
think so
pop culture.
because
What's
I don't think so because for the majority of my life, I've been on the offense against other people. Like when I'm at events with my family, they play R. Kelly and they like R. Kelly and I don't. And it's me like being that guy like, oh y'all just gonna play this child pedophile, right? Blah blah blah. But I don't want to get into that. I think as you're pulling me back into something I don't want to get to. The thing is, Elvis Presley isn't being torn down by his community. And that's where to me it's like I want to see all people like that torn down. But if other communities aren't doing it, like how do I uphold my position? And I just
Wait,
like
but
it's just
GSU, you're going there without me, regardless. Those were the points I made. Where like literally, I said in other communities, the community frameworks for their own artists is not the way we look at R. Kelly or a lot of like anything Bill Cosby, right? A lot of other communities, a lot of different ethnicities, different. They treat their artists differently. They still listen to some of the most heinous stuff I've ever heard,
we do too
consistently every
though.
single day. Yeah, we do too. Like Waka, I still listen. No, I barely listen to Waka Flocka, but Waka Flocka was saying some just straight outrageous stuff, and people loved that. It was just straight like cult, fantastic
Yeah, you can't make the
nonsense.
claim that there's a
But
community that rallies against people that have done bad things. All communities accept that.
yeah,
Like
I'm
you,
not saying that's not my point. I'm not trying to make that point. I'm saying that for this particular case seems to be so special. The R. Kelly case seems to be so special, just like the Bill Cosby case seems to be so special. Yet there are tons of other actors who I personally think have done worse. I feel like because if I believe like we believe in like reconciliation and healing while you still have maintained life. Well, this is why I said murder is worse because literally there's people who are dead who will never get a second chance to make any other types of actions. There are actors who are artists who are murderers who are still doing still living life freely. But we're looking at R. Kelly's case, and our community was like, it's still mixed. Even to this day, it's still our reaction is still mixed on what R. Kelly, has done. There's still people who still rally behind him because
so
the
like
white people
you're trying
treat
to
their
pull
artists and
us
they love that, and now they're just coming after R. Kelly because he's black.
you're trying to pull us into the calculus, and I don't want to necessarily go there. I
I
I
wanted
can,
think
to
you
but
already
actually
did. I
answer
think you
Jacob's
already did
question.
when you talked
So-
about
There you go, Jay Cook. Yeah, answer Jay Cook's question, my bad.
Elvis.
Yeah, that's what. So
hold
like,
on, hold on.
what I
Chris,
was
Chris has
gonna,
been waiting. Chris has been waiting, and then we'll go to Madeline. And top
Yeah,
dog.
I wanted to answer a question. All right, say like let's take. I really love horror movies, right? One of my favorite horror movies of all time is Jeepers Creepers. The director got charged with a sex crime against a minor. He went to jail.
really,
Yeah, he went to jail. It was after the second movie. That's why the third one didn't come out for such a long time. He went to jail. He did his time, came back out, did a third movie. I had a real like conundrum about watching that third movie because like even though he influenced like he like the first Jeepers Creepers is some of the best horror ever made. And it was really new. Like it was doing something like it was doing things like as far as horror that like I think should be upheld today. Like the whole like no jump scares and stuff like that. But like the third movie, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch it, but I'm not going to support the artist. Right. So I just pirated it, and I watched it, regretted it because it was trash. But like, it just like it taught me that like, like these like the things that these people influence, right? Their influence, the things that they create and like they contribute to humanity, they're bigger than that person is, right? So the style of writing like R. Kelly had, like the melodies he made, the things like like the rhythms, everything like that. We can't like we can't throw that all away. Like throw that all away. It's like it's you're taking a part of your life and you're just getting rid of it, right? Especially when it comes to the Black community. Like GSUGambit said, I grew up hearing like tons of R. Kelly songs constantly, and like I'm not even a fan of R&B all that much, right? I don't like it all that much, but he made some masterpiece tracks, right? You just can't deny it. Like Trapped in the Closet, my God, like right? Like, so like Trapped in the Closet was amazing, right? But like
But does
most
it
like
matter
it was
if the
early
work
track.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter?
yes, because like that can influence even better art, right? From
Listening.
there, right? Like the song structures, everything, like that can influence more complex and more intriguing art to go forward. If you just say let's get rid of that because like the artist who made it makes us feel bad, right? This is just like I don't think that's useful, right? There's even though that person's bad, they're terrible, there's still be some good can be taken from the things that they created, right? And I don't think there you should that should be a moral stand on you for like realizing that, right? If someone makes a cure of cancer, but they were like eating babies like out the womb, right? They still credit the cure of cancer. I'm still going to use it, right? We can just like put that person, like bury that person under the jail, right? That's how I feel about it.
I guess okay. I don't
That
never
was
mind.
an
I don't. That
Soulker,
was
I
a
see
bad
your hand.
example, but that's all I'm gonna say. That
No,
was a bad example.
That was
Jacob,
a
I was
really
gonna say
interesting
I was.
analogy.
Oh no,
All
no,
right.
I was
Okay,
I was
hold
actually
on.
gonna say that with
I'm gonna
Jacob.
say
With,
one
okay,
small thing to Jacob.
I-
Just it's one sentence.
small thing. Small thing. Okay.
Think of if you think about this generation and how influential Drake is, you could almost say R. Kelly was either the same or potentially bigger, in terms of impact on like Black events and blah blah blah.
Drake
That
is
could be
not.
a
Drake is
the
not.
one
All right,
the
hold
1
on.
cent the 1 cent. Okay, he said the 1 cent. Great. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, Chris, listen, this is a very important thing I'm going to say. Jeepers Creepers is not that good of a movie. It literally has the
We're
worst
not gonna do
example.
this. We're not
of
gonna
a-
do this
It
right
literally
now.
has the worst
So,
example of a magical
back
Negro
to the
character I've ever
topic.
seen.
Can we
That lady
okay,
ruins the
no,
whole
can
film.
we-
I swear to
can we-
God.
let's
Version.
keep the
Mad
conversation
Lion
going.
is the top.
Version.
So actually, Chris did bring up Trapped in the Closet. Does anybody actually remember the miniseries, the web miniseries that came off of that song? By the way, there was like this 33-part viral thing where R. Kelly like wrote like this crazy story where he's like trapped in the closet and overhearing like the craziest shit. And like that was like I
Man,
feel like
man-
one of the most first
that the
viral.
music-
I'm
that was
really
the-
out here
that was
Is that the
advertising
musical
R.
he
Kelly
did
right
where he
No,
now.
sang
no, it was like
every
one of the
I'm
first
that,
I'm talking about how significant he was culturally.
Hashtag ad.
Like
Hashtag ad.
this was like one of the first viral like video series that like I experienced. Like it was when I was on, like Facebook and MySpace, the shit was being spread everywhere, right?
I agree.
I grew up in like a mostly like rural white Michigan, right? And when I was in band, they made us play "I Believe I Can Fly." Like had the sheet music and all this other stuff. Like R. Kelly was extremely influential to the point where like my podunk rural middle school in Michigan was playing R. Kelly songs like in band and in choir. Like that's how significant he was.
Yeah,
They
so
still
I-
play "Step in the Name of Love" at at the
Black
cookout.
Funk Jones. Yeah, so I think the
They
thing
still
is
play that.
like it is kind of difficult because we are always going to be like torn, right? When it came to just put period, like we are like it's just who we are, because if the thing is if art is good, if art is influential in some sort of way, then it makes all the sense in the world that it's going to be something that's going to captivate us. But then we do have to recognize that, like, sometimes, for me, I think the big portion of my problem is that this art goes to the artist. If I'm listening to a song because a song sounds good, but I happen to have pirated, I would never do that, right? But if I happened to have pirated the song, then it's like I'm not supporting the artist by doing this. I'm just listening to the song, and that to me is not going to have a problem. I don't want a penny. I don't want the ad revenue. I don't want a click.
Where the
I don't want
FBI at,
anything
bro?
going towards the individual that is doing something heinous. Furthermore, I think if we start talking
Fanatic a
about
thief too, bro. He FBI,
further-
bro.
furthermore, if we want to start talking about things like when it comes to like the idea about comparing you know stuff regarding children to to the other heinous things that people are doing. I think most of us here would recognize. I mean, maybe Azee might be an outlier here, but most of us would probably feel like the charge for
You're really
molesting a
low.
child.
You're really low.
Sorry, most of us would say that the charge for like molesting a child would probably be higher than, or at least on par with murder, right? And I think the for some of the times, a lot of our outrage and disdain is going to be from an emotional place in some ways. For some, we're going to be looking at this R. Kelly situation and thinking about the innocent children in these scenarios, and we're going to be completely outraged. But we do have selective outrage, and that outrage is typically along the lines of race. So that's why you have someone like Dog the Bounty Hunter, who did several years in prison because he was the getaway driver for the murder of a black man. He was charged and, I mean, he was arrested and charged and did time for it. And now we just deify this man. Like, he's the best, he's the GOAT, da 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 da. Because white people do always tend to find some ways of redeeming their heroes, for redeeming the people who were important to them. That's why they can ignore Elvis Presley's thing. That's why I bet you Kevin Spacey, give him a little bit of time, he'll be out there making movies again. There was a list I just recently saw where they were just displaying how all of these people, like some of the rock legends, were married to an engaged 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 16-year-olds. Like, these things were known things. Elvis Presley was one of them. The guy who made the movie, one of my favorite movies too, and it's gross now, Leon the Professional, where Natalie Portman got her big start. Movie's insane, but the movie was made by a director who literally went to prison for having sex with like a whatever with a really young girl. Like, and then he's been making movies since.
That's
and
not
Roman
surprising if you
Polanski,
watch
right?
Leon.
Well, Polanski,
Yeah, I know. That's but as a
Polanski
really
fled. Actually, I don't think he actually did jail time. I thought he's in France.
Yeah.
He
Right?
escaped. He escaped.
He fled
maybe,
charges.
or he's the one who didn't actually get charged, because it
Right.
was a long list. But I think, yes, as a child watching that movie, I didn't recognize the undertone of like this grown man who they were like pretty much like implying was in a situation where he could be with this young girl, and it's like watching it was like, oh God, what was that? But as a kid, I didn't see it that way. And so but we see it, and that person, even though he's not like, he still gets awards all the time, he's still at the Cannes Festival and all these other things, he's still going on to make movies, and it's just like, oh, we're just gonna ignore past that. I can't remember who the guy was, the foot fetish guy on Nickelodeon.
Tarantino defended
No, you're
No,
thinking
no.
of
foot fetish guy.
fuck.
That's
I know who you're talking about.
Nickelodeon.
Not Dan Harmon.
Dan Schneider.
Either way,
Dan Schneider, yeah.
There we
yeah.
go. That
Dan the
disgusting
Man
dude.
Schneider.
So that dude and his underlings have done time. They've gone
Yeah.
to prison, and now they have like restraining orders that they can't.
Sure,
work
they did a
with children.
reboot of iCarly. Oh,
Right,
God.
and then now
No,
they're
but
working, but they're
they
not
did that
working
without
directly
him.
with the
He's not on
kids.
that.
Now they're working around. Like, I'm still working in the studio, but I'm just not working with the children. So you got your job back after you did time for inappropriate acts with a child. You got redemption. Why is it everyone else can get redemption except for niggas? People will hang on to Chris Brown beating Rihanna with that umbrella until we're dead. They'll never get over it. But it's like, wait a minute. We'll forgive all of these other people, all of these other stars. Paula Deen, you got black people going behind her like, nah, we can kind of understand what you was getting at when she was talking about, I wanted to have plantation style weddings where only black people were allowed to be in service. Like, what are you talking about? And all the N-words she was letting fly behind closed doors. We forgive those people. But then whenever it comes to niggas, it's all of a sudden it's like, no, we're just gonna let these niggas hold that L indefinitely. Freak out of here. I'm not here for it. Now, R. Kelly's disgusting. And I don't know, for me, I don't really think there is redemption. For child
True.
stuff, you just can't
I agree.
be redeemed. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So in this specific case, I don't think there should be a path to redemption. Let that nigga fry. He's out of here.
Yeah.
Fuck 'em.
I mean, the thing is, like,
Rico charges
Oh
were
wait,
wrong.
hold on.
Top
You
is
bring up
not
all these
the-
examples, but you like brought up Chris Brown. Isn't Chris Brown like still making music today? Like you like
Yeah,
Chris
Chris
Brown did a
Brown's
lot more.
alright.
These people at the end of
Chris
the
Brown
day,
did
and
a
I'm
lot
not saying
more
this
than
is good
just
or bad,
beat
but at the
Rihanna.
end of the day, like people get fucking people who do bad things and have like lots of fame continue to have fame. I don't. Now, I won't. I'm not gonna disagree with you. I think people push way harder against black people, especially like R. Kelly. Like people out here. I don't know if it's the black community trying to hold them more accountable, and maybe we hold our people accountable more. Maybe it's the white people out there trying to get them locked up in jail because they don't want black people out here making music and shit. But at the end of the day, like it seems like regardless of race, people who fuck up like still end up successful. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I think necessarily if you do you did the crime and you did the time, like once you're done, like
you should be able to come back out and do music. Now, should people be a little bit skeptical of you, like fuck the kid, and you're like, hey, I don't want you near my kids? Like that's an individual's like decision to make, but like
No, put those people
we
with
have like a legal
life.
system that is supposed to keep people accountable, right?
Okay, well let's look
I
at
was
Michael
gonna
Vick.
say,
What,
like,
that's a better
I don't think
example.
it was-
What about Michael Vick?
Oh my. Michael Vick should not have been a player after that. I'm sorry. He shouldn't have been playing. Like, come on. No, fuck that, dude.
wasn't a
Hurting
player.
animals, animal abuser.
He wasn't.
No, he wasn't for
a
a little bit. He came back. Michael Vick.
He
should
thought-
have
I
no
know this. He was Philly,
redemption.
okay?
What this
I
cancel
know
culture
he was
is
on my team. He
silly.
was on the
told
Pittsburgh
you, there's
Steelers,
no
and he sucked ass,
consistency.
and that's
It's
why we never
weird.
played him.
This
So
is
I just need to
weird.
make sure this is clear. Signatural. So because of the fact that Michael Vick did dog fighting, you're saying he should never ever be able to play football ever again, and
That's
he should
wild.
never, and he should have his entire career gone, even if he does anything. There's no path to redemption. Is that what you're saying?
That's wild.
Path to redemption. What do you mean by? Okay, how do you define path to redemption here?
I'm
I
asking
think
you-
losing. When I say path to redemption, doesn't mean like, oh, he gets to be like a multi-millionaire football player again. I don't think that's what a path to redemption means. I think a path to redemption is a moral thing, right? I think that the NFL shouldn't have took him back. I think they should have been like, no, you fucking did you abused animals. We really don't want you to represent,
So should he be able to have
I mean,
his
there
ever
has to
again?
be restorative justice
I
on some
really think
level,
that's-
though, right? Like,
Yeah, why don't you
Restorative
have
justice
free?
doesn't mean
Can
you
we
get
get
your
to the
job
bottom
back.
of it? Signatural.
and it's not even. It has nothing
Okay,
to do
got you.
with.
So maybe he
it has-
shouldn't be in the NFL. You feel like that? Should he be able to be hired
Yeah.
by any other job?
I mean, like, should he? Probably, yeah. I feel like that could be easy redemption. Sure.
So he can work
Yeah,
other
whatever.
jobs. Then what specifically?
I think
about
that
the
he shouldn't be-
NFL
I think that-
means
I
he
think-
can't do it.
Being a public face and being like a public figure, I think that's a problem. I do.
So-
I
so
think
why-
that,
why
Why
are
are
we
we
CEO.
holding our public figures to like these like
Yeah.
god tier statuses and
Wait,
like
that's
giving
not
them
what
all
God
this
tier,
money
hold on,
and
hold on,
shit?
stop that.
There is something to that, though, right?
I'm being
Like-
questioned. Hold on, I'm being questioned right now. I was being questioned right
Yeah,
now.
that's fine,
not
yeah,
a god
but-
figure. Don't abuse animals. That's not a fucking god
Wait,
level.
yeah,
That's not
I think we can.
just
I think we can
That's
definitely
not
hold
fucking
people
what we
accountable for their
understand that.
actions.
Okay, good. So
I'm
then in
not
that case,
saying
do you
that
feel
we're
like so then like where do you draw the line? Because it sounds arbitrary as hell. Like, do you feel like a
It
person
is.
that okay, good. So then like Chris Hansen, he was involved in a relationship with somebody. She was a lot younger than him, and I think at the time he was
She was
married.
nowhere
So
near.
he-
Hold on. He was.
No,
was
it's
nowhere
fine. It's
near
fine. Doesn't
underage.
matter.
He cheated.
He had an affair.
He cheated. He definitely
I got
cheated.
you. So
Yeah, he
I
cheated.
got you. I'm asking a question. Chill. I didn't say anything wrong yet. Relax. Chris Hansen was in a relationship with someone who was significantly younger than him.
You're low. You gotta get
Okay,
closer.
I got
to
you.
the mic.
Shut up. But so somebody that was younger. She was an intern. I'm gonna mute this nigga Azee. She was.
I just told him to
she
get
was an
closer to his.
intern. Oh my god!
I'm
Can you
turning
shut
Fanatic down,
up,
bro. You
She-
make my
Wait,
blood
Fanatic,
pressure
you
high,
gotta
bro.
get closer to your mic. We can't hear
Okay,
you.
I got you.
I'm literally trying to tell
It
them.
happens.
okay, we
it
got it,
happens
we got it,
whenever
we got
someone's
it.
talking over me. That's when it happens. So just shut up and you'll hear me. So anyway, as a result, he had an affair. Do you feel like he should ever be able to be the face of To Catch a Predator again?
I don't think having an affair is as bad as abusing animals. So me personally, I think that's.
Okay, where do you draw the line? Because it is arbitrary. He did do something that was morally corrupt, right? Like it was an intern, or I mean, somebody that was significantly younger than him. There was a power dynamic. He was literally the face of the show. She was on his production team. So you're willing to let him have a path to redemption. What makes dogfighting like so much worse than
His
someone
crimes-
literally someone having an affair on their wife?
Someone having
His
an
crime
affair.
is literally related to
Well, I
his
don't think that
power.
that's. Well, I don't actually think that his crime is related. But I don't think Chris Hansen. I feel like y'all are really stretching this deal because like
No, I'm
Chris
not-
Hansen was
no,
talking
I'm
about
not-
people that
That's
were
a
dealing
better
with, like,
example.
I'm asking you a
13-year-olds.
question. I'm
I
not
don't-
saying they're the same. I'm asking you what makes it different.
Okay, what makes it different?
Right.
One, I don't think that adultery, and I think because I think that's what's really the issue here is like mainly just adultery is the big thing. I didn't know she was on his production team. If that's true, I didn't know that. If that's true, then actually, I don't think he probably should be in that case. Okay, if it was like someone that was like working under him, in that case, actually, he fucking shouldn't. Straight up.
So
All right, I
30
would say
years
that.
later, can he do it 30 years later or just for life? If you do something that's reprehensible, like cheat on your wife or I don't know, like
It's
you know,
it wasn't. Hold on, it wasn't about. I was just saying, it wasn't about cheating on your wife. It wasn't about like
Abuse
cheating on
power
your wife.
position.
I think
Sure,
that's
so
yeah,
someone
the
abuses
abuse
their
power.
power.
I think that
For
you
life.
shouldn't. You probably. I think that you probably should not be a public figure.
for
Yeah,
life.
I think you should.
Wait,
For
so-
life.
For life.
For
I do want to make
life?
sure we're clear here. For life.
For life? Oh man, shit. That's hard to say. I think that really depends on the severity of the crime.
Chris Hansen.
Honestly.
Chris
Huh?
Hansen.
In Chris
Take the
Hansen's
Chris
situation. For life.
All right. Yes, for life.
So,
Jesus.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So
I got it. I got it.
Natural.
Listen, that's great. I know it's perfect. So this is the reason why you let people go down these trains of logic, right? Because you walk him into a corner where he has to admit that because someone had abused their power in a situation like this, even though the girl did consent, but it didn't matter. He abused his power, and because of that, for life, this man should never be able to be in any position where he's the face of a
Yeah,
freaking
that's
show
crazy.
in which he's done all of this good.
We need garbage
all
men.
see. We
Right
all
now, we
know
need
how
nurses.
ridiculous this is, and that's why you allow someone to go down this line of reasoning. That's absolutely ridiculous. I can't even entertain it anymore.
We got
That's
plenty of
absolutely
jobs that
absurd.
need filling.
Freak out of here.
Okay,
Pig, you bit that?
Of course he would, because he was walked into it.
Chris.
It's so stupid.
Pig.
I mean, he had to walk me into. I was just like, well, okay, sure. Honestly, my true answer in myself is just like, no, I think that it really does depend. This is a case by case basis. But he kept saying, should they be for life? Should they be for life? Well, I guess like in certain situations, yeah, he should.
I mean,
be.
like, all right.
Yeah.
So Chris
No,
Hansen's
don't
job-
walk that back now. I specifically asked you specifically about Chris Hansen. Don't try to sit here and ameliorate what you just claimed by saying something like, no, I'm saying in certain
All right,
situations,
so, like-
that's a lot more general. I got very specific. Chris Hansen specifically, this case in which he had a relationship with his intern, do you feel like for life he should not be able to do it? You said yes. Don't walk that back now, buddy. That's
All
your
right,
line
Hansen,
of logic.
like, to
point.
be
Well,
fair,
Chris,
with Chris
Fanatic,
Hansen's
with
story
exactly what you,
specifically-
hold on, with the exact thing that you were saying there, the way that you had framed it, that certainly sounds like it. That would definitely be my first answer in my head. I would be like, sure. I don't actually know the heavy details of this case.
All right,
I don't.
So,
Maybe
Chris
with- hold on,
Hansen
maybe-
specifically,
hold on,
what's
hold on,
interesting about Chris
hold on.
Hansen?
Maybe with enough
Fighting.
maybe
Also,
with enough
can we
I'm
not
seeing
go off on a
maybe
thing
with
about
enough
Chris
things-
Hansen? Hold on, because I said something and it was taken completely in the wrong way. Okay,
All
so
right.
Sig Natural, I wasn't trying to say that we we hold celebrities to a higher moral standard and like what is wrong and what is right. That is not what I was saying at all. What I'm saying, or public figures too. What I'm saying is, if a garbage man goes and fucks a 17-year-old girl and goes to jail and does his time, he's allowed to come back and be a garbage man. If a public figure does the same thing, why aren't they allowed to return to their position? What's the difference? Why do we hold these people on a pedestal in society as if they
I can answer
are
that.
better than
Okay.
everybody else and
Matt
they
Ladden, you
don't
got it.
deserve
Please do
more
well.
play?
Please do good, Matt Ladden. Take this one for me.
So the difference is that the garbage man doing what he did does not impede his work as a garbage man when he gets out versus a public figure who does something like with Chris Hansen
influence over
specifically.
people. Yeah.
If we're using that,
No,
Chris
that's not
Hansen
me.
it built a career
I thought you
off
had it.
Mike
of
Vick fought
catching
dogs.
people on hidden cameras, right? Like his job was to catch people doing bad things on hidden cameras. And then he proceeded to do something bad on a hidden camera and got caught, right? So like he literally
What
hooked
about
himself
Mike
in-
Vick? Mike Vick
Mike
fought
Vick
dogs.
is different. Like I don't actually agree that he shouldn't play football anymore. Like I thought that was kind of
know
like
you're saying.
not.
Well,
Yeah,
my
you actually
question:
have
what
a
if,
brain
what
there.
if the trash
Isn't
man,
I don't
right,
think
what if the
it-
garbage man,
isn't it simply
like,
he's
was literally
compromising?
using his garbage route to find little girls? Right?
No.
Right?
Okay,
That
like,
he was
yeah,
trying
but
to-
like if he
This
was,
is where the
if
problem
he,
comes.
like, does he lose his job then?
No, Matt. Here, let me answer the question for you. I was hoping you would slam dunk it, but it's really this simple. It really boils down to the reason why we hold different terms for these people is because certain people end up using their power inappropriately. And in a situation in which a person has like acquired a certain amount of power and then use that power in order to do something heinous, we should probably never restore power to that individual because that person has obviously shown an inability to do so. And so, but again, there would need to be them using their power and having undue influence, and then us being able to recognize you're a person that we now recognize you should never have that influence. Jared
Right,
from
so that's-
Subway, he should
what if
never
they're-
have that influence. He should
So
never have that power.
so what if
Because
they
it's predicated
spend
on their
like
influence,
40
sure.
years in jail and they come back and they have that, they're not allowed to have that power again? They've like served their time, right? Like,
well, it depends on whether that power is going to get abused or not.
Yeah.
Like, it's predicated on the idea that power is what led them
Well, I
to
think
do whatever it is they
we
did.
can think.
Chris,
I mean, this
Like,
is
and that's not necessarily always the case, right?
no.
this goes into what our
Have you
prison
shut up?
system is made
Chris,
for.
go.
Is it made for retribution or
Chris.
for fixing the
holy shit,
problem
do you
that
not hear
put them
me?
in prison in
Do
the
you not
first
hear me?
place?
Holy shit.
This is a
Wally,
Roz Royale
Chris, shut
podcast,
up.
bro.
Yeah, just start amusing him.
Okay. Jesus. All right. Right. The Vic thing. Michael Vick should not be able to own dogs anymore. Should he be able to play football? Yes. Right. It's an easy answer. We like this is like going back to the like separating the art from the artist type thing. Is their art connected to the crime they committed? All right, they shouldn't be doing that anymore because there's a connection to there. But if it has nothing to do with that, if it's completely separated from that, I don't think there's an issue. If a politician was using his power to sexually harass or assault their assistants and their underlings, they shouldn't be able to be in a public service position anymore. If they want to be work as a public figure in some other place, they have the right to do so. People have the right to work under them if they agree to do that. Right? We can't really stop that from happening. I don't think there's a way we can even take away that right if somebody if they do their time, right? If they commit a crime, they do their time, they get out, and for some reason they are able to find a lucrative position doing something else, and people agree to work for them or work with them. There's they should have the right to do that.
Well, it also depends on
had
whether
Michael Vick got in trouble because he hit somebody with a car and killed them. When he gets back out, should he not be able to own a car or drive a car ever again?
Well, there's laws.
I feel like we're drawing these ridiculously arbitrary lines.
There is hold on.
You didn't accidentally do dog fights.
Well, let Chris actually finish. Wait.
Yeah, Top Dolphin. That's actually a good point. Actually, some people do lose their license and their ability to drive depending on the crime that they commit. So that's actually that does happen, right? So depending on what you do, as a crime, right? There's either a time period given to you being able to do that thing again, or you're just not able to do that thing again, depending on your severity of it. If you're going around purposely running into people with your car, there's a good chance you're going to lose your license for the rest of your life.
Wait, so this is the difference, right? The difference is that in one case, the state punishment that is assigned to somebody is that they lose their license, right? So the state said Michael Vick couldn't own dogs, and that was part of his punishment for his crime. Yeah. That's one thing. But what we're talking about is people going to jail, right? They serve their time. They do the punishment that we determined for the crime that they've committed. And when after they serve their punishment, they come out and they cannot continue to do to live in society.
Well, it depends.
No, that's not
on.
living.
Well, no, hold on. So this
live in society in the capacity they were before.
Owning dogs is not a right? I don't think so, right? So if they decide to look, you've messed up, you abused this situation before, you can live your life, you can go play football, whatever, make your millions, but we're not going to put you in a situation to where you get to have dogs again, and this happens. Even though you might be
this happens in the sex offenders registry, right?
I guess it gets to a fundamental question about our justice system. But you guys just have zero faith that our justice system does absolutely nothing.
No, it's literally a sex offenders registry
justice system, right? And we can talk about it,
right? There's literally a sex offenders registry, right?
Yes.
So when someone gets out of jail, Top Dolphin, even though they've done their time, we're not necessarily trusting them to not reoffend. So we put them on this list so people know to stay away from them, that they're not allowed to be within 100 yards of a school, et cetera, et cetera. We actually set things aside for cases like that. It's not just doing the time. There's also other consequences that come with it, depending on the situation. Now, Fanatic is absolutely correct.
100%, right? But I drew a clear distinction between saying, hey, the government says this, right? And we as a society say that people shouldn't be able to do a thing, right? Sometimes we afford that as part of a punishment, and I think that's okay. Right? If there are additional punishments, when you're sentenced, that come with something like a sex offenders registry, I think that's fine. But when we say that this guy was can't own dogs, right? That's not a thing that the government necessarily says.
It has happened. Right? No, I looked it up. It's a thing. I thought it wasn't a thing. I looked it up. It's actually a thing. You can be barred.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. We got to move it along. Let's go.
Jesus.
Yeah, I completely thought it was bullshit. That's what I was about to say, and then I googled it, and there's in Indiana.
Something. The more you know.
That,
Jamali.
So I mean, we have to evaluate why we imprison people. They do something that we as a society deem is bad, so we put them in a place. They put them in a box, go in the box. You're in the fucking timeout box, right? Now, are we putting them in that timeout box to teach them a lesson and make it so that they're able to re-enter society in a way that they will not redo the crimes that they do, or that they will generally either try to reconcile with either the community or do something, community service afterwards, whatever that they do? Or are we just putting them in here and be like, no, bad, you do bad thing, and we put them in there and then we just let them out after a certain amount of time, and it's okay, go. I guess I hope you learned your lesson. Good job. What are we doing here? How
I
are
think
we
what you're
I
pointing
mean,
out
if
is
Amber
criminal
Alert,
justice.
if
I mean,
Amber
you're
Alert
pointing out that
exists,
it's criminal
I mean,
justice.
honestly.
I just want to say,
I
Amber Alert
think it's
exists for a
important.
reason. Okay.
That's not at all a response to what he was saying. Anyway, so like I think the point
What
that
do you
you're
mean that's
bringing
not
up
a
is
response?
it's not the point.
Fanatic, why
I
don't you
think,
grapple with that? Why don't you
sure,
grapple with it
sure.
for a little bit before
Okay,
you
no,
just
it's okay. No,
spit out
trust me,
nonsense?
because it was so
No one
banal that
finds those kids
it was so
anyways.
banal that it didn't take that long. Anyway, Jamali, I think that the point that you're making is that yes, it does seem like our prison system doesn't really do very well with like rehabilitation, which is why our recidivism rates are so insanely high. And I do think it's a problem. I think one of the major things that we used to do in this country was we used to encourage people to be able to get prison, to be able to get educations while they're in prison, such that they would develop trades, and when they got out, they would be able to do that. But unfortunately, our very racist president, Bill Clinton, decided to remove that while he was in office, such that when in his crime bill, they during that time they also removed the ability for prisoners to be able to have access to the Pell Grant, even though we could see that people who used the Pell Grant had like literally like a 60% less recidivism rate than their non-Pell Grant using counterparts. Education typically, and the prospects of a future, typically encourage people to assimilate more with society and do better. So we do fail in that regard, and I think that that's a problem. I think most of us here, I think everyone who's like saying things like, "Oh man, there's no redemption whatsoever," I think there's specific things that I think I'm willing to go down there for. I think murder is probably one of them, to be honest with you. I don't know. Murder. It
flat
depends.
out or in certain
No, it
what if it's
depends.
an accidental murder?
I was going. Well, if it's an accidental, it's not murder. It's called manslaughter. So anyway, I would think in certain situations, in case you have like gang violence and things like that, I think then it's a little bit more complicated. I don't look at that type of murder the same as I would about like maybe someone who's just robbing the innocent. And even in those situations, it's really hard for me to divorce those crimes from the precipitating environment, and so it's hard for me to get that. So I think murder. I don't know. I think I probably do have a softer spot in my heart for murder than I would for something like child porn or child molestation or things like, or rape even. I think rape is just as heinous. You go around raping women, yeah, go ahead and give that nigga the chair. I don't know how we assimilate those people back in society. For me, personally, I don't know. I don't really like the chair though. I always say that phrase. It just means that I want you underneath the jail.
So we kind of well, not pivot, but we kind of talking about a couple different
And then
things
Azee,
here.
sorry.
One of them is like one of them is like what should the government be doing for these people? In the case of like you hit someone with a car, you lose your license, or you do this, you have to be barred from doing this sorts of thing. And another one is what companies should do, like losing your jobs. For example, when Fanatic asked me like, should Michael Vick be barred from the NFL, or should Chris Hansen be barred from like his job as being like a reporter and everything? I was thinking of an example of like, is it up to me, right? So like if I was the head of like, what was he working on, the NBC or some shit? Yeah, if I was like the head of NBC, I would make sure that Chris Hansen would never work there as long as I was the head of it, right? So like to me, if you're asking me like, should he be barred for life? From my perspective, I would have been like, sure, yeah, for life. Or at least as long as I'm fucking alive, I wouldn't be. But
See,
like,
you're trying
fucking,
your best, bro. It's not working, bro.
I'm not even like trying my best. I'm trying to get the thing here of like, should someone be barred from like their job? And I'm just like, well, who the fuck is up to that? Who leads that? Who decides that? Whoever the fuck is the person it's part of like the company, right? I don't know.
It's okay, bro. We still love you, man. You can't walk that
I'm not
back.
doing. Oh my god, dude. I didn't walk anything.
GSU,
I genuinely
you didn't even
I'm
know
genuinely
that
not trying to walk anything
GSU
back.
didn't
There's a
even
lot
know
of.
that if you do something egregious,
Yeah, but there's a lot of.
you can own a dog.
Oh god,
anymore.
Gambit,
So
there's
I
a
don't
lot.
know why
Stop it! Don't, he looked at least he looked it up,
I don't
Azee. You
know why
didn't
you
even look
doing
up your bullshit about the fucking genetic memory or some shit. Okay, can we just not go into that? God damn! Don't insult the man. God, I'm not just trying to walk it back. I'm trying to create a lot of context around this thing because I genuinely still do believe that, right? Like I genuinely do believe like that position and everything. The more I think about it, the more solid I actually do think. Yeah, no, it definitely makes fucking sense.
And
like,
we all know that it's insane.
No,
it's
that's
insane,
fair.
Sure. Yeah,
it's
insane. Yeah,
it's fair.
insane.
If you work for a company and someone in your company abuses someone else, they get arrested, go to jail, they get out. If they did the time, it's within your right to say, I don't want to hire that person anymore.
No, Chris, we all agree with that. But what we're saying is, it's ridiculous because that's not the parameters that was set when the question was asked.
No, that's what I'm getting.
If you were Roger Goodell,
that's what
would
I'm
you
trying to
bring
get
Mike
to.
Vick
So,
back?
Right. So
There's
yeah,
a
that's the thing.
difference
But that's the thing, Gambit. When you say ban, Fanatic, what Fanatic said was, would you ban him for life? And I'm just like, okay,
that's not what I said.
Nobody.
I didn't say that. I said
should he be banned for life?
Should he be banned for life? And that's
Right.
there's a very big difference. It's really crazy
vague,
because
right?
No, it's not very vague. Everyone else understood the context of it. What you're doing now is you're trying to distance your prescription and just try to say, no, this is just a personal conviction. You're trying to change the prescription you gave into a personal conviction. They are not the same thing. I wouldn't ask you about your personal conviction necessarily in these kind of conversations because I don't care. I don't like other people's opinions. I want to know what we feel would be appropriate to prescribe to everyone else. Just like earlier when we made a very clear distinction when you were saying you can't separate the emotions thing, and I said it's fine that you have that ridiculous position, and I'm glad that you wouldn't advocate that for others there. Right there, we were able to get that because the context was such that it allowed for that. But the way that I framed the question and the way we got down that line of reasoning was to be sure this was a valid prescription that you felt was valid, and now you're trying to walk that back. But it's fine, you don't have to. Like, you're entitled to your
Fanatic.
ridiculous
Hold on, Fanatic. Now,
prescriptions.
when you're talking about this prescription thing, I don't actually think this matters when we're talking about like a company that's owned by like individuals, where individuals make the decision. I don't think that like prescriptions necessarily guide like people's decisions when they're making those sorts of things. Like when
Plenty
Michael
of
Vick
times
was
they
like
do.
kicked out. Hold on, when
There are
Michael
li-
Vick was like kicked out.
What
of those
about
sorts of
legal
things,
injunctions?
it was-
Those are prescriptions.
Okay, when you're talking about companies like the fucking NFL and like fucking MSNBC and shit like that,
Yeah.
we're not talking about the legal shit. We're talking about people in like boardroom meetings making decisions on their own based on their own personal reasons. Okay, so when you
Sure.
ask me about when someone is like, should someone be banned for life? I don't think that makes sense when we're talking about owning a fucking corporation. Okay, it makes sense when we're talking about like in a legal sense. We're talking about like lawyers in a court of law and stuff like that. In that case, you can make decisions like you are banned for life for this fucking thing. So when you ask me that, I feel like that's not why it made a lot of sense. All right.
Everyone else understood it, man. Like, I'm sorry.
Everyone else. No, Fanatic. I understand what you're saying. I'm saying it doesn't make sense given the context. Okay.
When I say everyone else understood it, I'm saying basically everyone else understood it. So therefore, it made sense to everyone else.
Oh,
it did make sense.
Don't speak for me, okay?
One...
I did understand
Jamali,
it.
it didn't make sense to you?
No, I did understand it. I just didn't want you to speak for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nigga, I hate you so much.
So no, I was gonna say though,
I appreciate that, bro.
Sig has said something that's really important that we should definitely talk about, which is like the legal consequences versus like the practical consequences. So like Fanatic was emphasizing when he didn't like my response. Like I was emphasizing the practical consequences, and Fanatic was emphasizing the legal consequences. But like there's both, right? So like the legal consequences, you go to jail, and then you are or are not allowed to participate in whatever it is you did before. But then there's a practical, which is that like companies might not hire you to do the
You
same
mean
thing.
social, not practical?
Social is like one aspect of it, but it could be like a lot of different. I feel like there's a lot of different ways this could be applied. Like it's not necessarily inherently social if the garbage man from earlier, who like did his job poorly to commit a crime, would get like not hired. So like if he doesn't get hired again, it's because he didn't do his job well, which isn't necessarily social. He didn't drive a garbage truck to the places he was supposed to drive it, right? That's like more practical, and I don't have a better word for it, so I'm just going in that direction. So like my point is though that it's not just like the morality of it and the ethics of it, it's also like practicality. Like, can the person continue to do the job after they've done their time and have been restored to respectable human being, theoretically, although our prison system doesn't do that.
Wait, so isn't the job of the state, right? Isn't the job of the state, right? The reason we assign them the ability to like be the arbiters of justice because we don't trust people, right, to like carry out justice on their own. If it was up to like for example, if it was up to a lot of people, if like someone like stole from them or someone killed their kid, they would come out and murder them motherfucker, regardless of why, regardless of whatever. Like we determine as a society that like, hey, us as individuals aren't very good at like giving out consequences because there's too much emotion in that shit, right? And there's too much, and so we allow the state and unbiased juries to do it. And it feels weird to me when we say, well, when they come back, like, oh, now we're allowed to give out consequences. Now I'm all for it. Let's say like there's a difference, right? With like I said, private corporations necessarily like exercising their autonomy and not wanting to associate with certain type of people because of certain things, right? That's okay. But I think like when we like try to make prescriptive statements of like, oh, this person should never get hired at these places because of what they did, I think we like start blurring those lines, and I think it's like not okay.
So if Jerry from Subway got out of jail,
wait, hold on real quick,
you
Matt.
hire
Let me
him as a
explain it to
spokesman?
him. Let me explain really quickly. There's a reason why that happens in society, and it's because one, like not all of us are on board with like literally all of the all the legal like things that happen, right? Like there are plenty of times where people get off. For example, Brock Turner raped a girl. He raped a girl behind a dumpster with 2 eyewitnesses, and he only got 6 months in prison because the judge didn't want to impact his life. I don't think anyone sitting here, and pretty much anyone I've ever spoken to, agreed with the idea that a person should get a sentence as light as 6 months. So the thing is, there's a lot of time where like our view of what should happen legally and what actually happens are sometimes discordant, right? And so then I would say for a lot of times we might recognize that like we have a punitive justice system that says like this is your punishment, but we don't always feel like that punitive justice system, the punishment is enough for rehabilitation. Some of us, right, look at those two as totally different things. So in cases where it's like, okay, good, you did your time, I don't know that that changed you as a person. In fact, we have all sorts of evidence where people who will go to jail for petty times come out hardened criminals from all of the different things in the social groups that they've learned and like the disconnect from their family and their social circles and things like that, where they become hardened criminals because of their time in prison. So as opposed to being something rehabilitative, it actually becomes something worse that hardens and ruins these people. So in those scenarios, I think there's plenty of times where society can say, you did a crime and they gave you a punishment for that crime. I don't know that there's enough like to sit there and say that you're like whatever. Like if Jeffrey Dahmer did 40 years and got released on bad behavior, on good behavior, I'm not like inviting him to my cookout. Sorry, right? There's some times where someone has just displayed something that's heinous enough within them that we say, or at least me, that I would say, there's almost nothing that could redeem you. It really sucks because bringing this back to R. Kelly, I think given his circumstances, like, I don't know how many people know his backstory because media does a terrible job. And I get it. I wouldn't want to humanize him until he's been punished either. Because other times people will use their humanity to like be lenient on him. And I don't think he deserved leniency. He's a disgusting, deplorable human being. But R. Kelly was like a molested dude. Like he was molested like by his sister at a very, very young age. That was his first sexual encounter. And you have to think about like what that situation does to a man in his position. I think him having been like molested and I think being sexually activated at such a young age, I would think that the idea of him having these interactions with these other young girls at that age group, how unwilling they were to participate in that, and it created some sort of disgusting need for him to want to be validated by girls at that age. And then as he got older, maturity stopped with his molestation. The problem for me is, despite all of that, he had considerable means of wealth, considerable means of reach, and he didn't use any of that in order to get some sort of help. He could like rid himself of this absolute disease and this nonsense, and then he instead used his power and influence as opposed to rehabilitating himself and finding some sort of help for the sickness that was in him. He decided to prey on young girls and take advantage of them and ruin some of their lives, who might end up going on to be these perpetrators as well, or having all of these other like whatever. So because of those things is why he's go ahead.
So
But what are you doing? I thought you were like, is he can he be reconciled or not? Like you were advocating for because
that's what I was going into. Well, yeah. So what I was saying is, for me, it's really hard because I think child molestation and rape are some of those things that I guess it's like consciously I feel like this is something that I should never, ever, ever like allow any leniency for or any sort of path to redemption. But in reality, the same way how I feel about the murder, I do think there are circumstances here that led to those led to that situation. I still think because of the fact that despite all of those things, he used his power to, like I said, to do all of that to all those girls and all that stuff. I don't think that he would be the case. But I would say in a case in which maybe R. Kelly, like had there been like one case and it was like, man, and we can tie it and we can understand where this sickness came from, and then he was able to get help or something like that, maybe I might be a little bit more understanding, possibly. I don't know, I'm not in that scenario, but I could imagine a world in which I would say, okay, that was disgusting, they've gotten help, they can recognize, and like that person would be required to do insane amounts of things like in order to rehabilitate themselves, like Michael Vick did, where he decided, hey, guess what, I'm donating X amount of money like towards like women's shelters and animal shelters. I'm going to be a public speaker for like all sorts of positive things. I'm going to like volunteer and donate a lot of my wealth and my time and my energy into being a better advocate for people who are defenseless and like helping young boys. He did all of those steps.
Hold on, but now I gotta push back. I gotta push back because Colin Kaepernick literally bent a knee and he's been blacklisted.
Why are you bringing up Colin Kaepernick?
That's not criminal.
I'm trying to make a. Oh, do you not understand the point where we're talking about a football player who literally did something to advocate for
Yeah.
good, but he's
he
no
got
longer
canceled.
able
It's not
to
related.
play ever
no,
again.
get-
But we're
okay.
talking about a
know
guy.
you- listen, Azee, the reason why it's not a point is because what you're doing right now is you're having a conversation with us, and now you're talking about, well, let's talk about something else that other people have canceled, like that they're not willing to redeem. And that's a
It's
whole
not about
other concept.
canceled. He's blacklisted.
Blacklist,
He's
cancel, whatever word you want to use. Other people have decided there's a punishment for, and that whatever. We're not those people. Nobody here in this panel right now has any problem with Colin Kaepernick, to my knowledge. Is there anyone? No, I
It's
didn't
not
think
about
so.
having
So
a
then-
problem
So then
with
at this
Col-
point,
it's-
so then at this
well,
point, bringing
bro, you
introducing. I know, I get it. Introducing Colin Kaepernick into this conversation where we're talking about where there should be rehabilitation when Colin Kaepernick hasn't done anything that any of us felt was
I don't
wrong.
think
It's
you're
really,
missing the
it's a
point,
non
Fanatic.
sequitur. So
I'm-
stay
we're
on
talking about-
topic.
I'm
I don't know why you
comparing
need
him
to
to Michael
interject
Vick.
with your nonsense. I hate.
Why are you
I'm
comparing?
comparing
Why are
him
you
to Michael Vick.
Why?
Again, you're completely
No one
missing
here
the
sees
point.
that comparison.
It doesn't
Because
matter because it
you're on
doesn't
your
contribute to the
pedestal right
larger
now. It's
conversation.
okay,
It's
I
not me.
I
understand.
actually,
pedestal.
I sort of
Everyone
get it,
sees
but I
it.
don't want to.
Wait, no, I get the
Guys,
comparison, but it
please.
doesn't contribute to the larger conversation because we're talking about criminals who commit crimes, go to prison, and come out.
Oh,
and
we're
the
talking
punishment
about-
there.
but this
So, like I
concept
said,
of
Michael
cancel,
Vick,
dog.
you
This
think
this would feed
when
into the
when
social
when
politics,
Fanatic
right?
asked,
Right?
and I've been waiting for, but Fanatic always got to explain
Wait,
everything
can I
down
respond
to
to
the minute
Fanatic?
details.
Yeah, so that you
Oh,
can ask
Azee's
stupid
hours.
questions and you still do it anyway.